I would say yes to kind of all those questions. There were there were highs and there were lows. There were lows. Um, I know I didn't put up reviews or anything, so I think it's hard for people to tell normally what I think if I'm not doing these streams. Like, oh, what did Joe think of the season? Except for the review I did at the start of it because HBO gave me access. Like, if you just watch a video where it's like, where's the gold? Where did Thailand put it? That's not really a qualitative review of what I actually thought of the season. So we're going to kind of do that a little bit today. Hey, Karina Strick. Good to see you back. Yeah. So the thumbnail's a little bit of a bait. It says Thrones is back, and I mean that in a derogatory way. I'm not Roddy. I'm Ormond. Not super happy with where things have gone. Well, no, okay. Let me say this a different way. I'm not super happy with how we got to places rather than where they ended up. Like, plot lines ended up as like an overall view of the season, where plot lines went, where characters went, largely worked pretty well. It was, they hit good points. They had plot lines well structured out throughout the season, or at least where they were going to end up. But a lot of kind of the connective tissue between it was either frayed or not particularly great, I would say. It reminded me a lot when we started getting into seasons 6 and 7 of Game of Thrones, where they were still hitting plot points. They were still like getting to where they wanted to, but in between, it was just kind of like you were watching and filling in a lot of the gaps of scenes in between, conversations, motives, even dialogues. Like, in particular, there was that scene where Rhaena apparently saw Baela and Adam and went to go chase after them, couldn't find them, and came back to the Eyrie. And instead cuts from her seeing them to immediately being in front of Jane Eyre. And Jane going like, you were seen. The people saw you. This is gonna get back to King's Landing. And I thought I was having a stroke because I was like, what scene? Wait, what are we talking about? This one where Raina as the girl living in the nettles, as it were. Like, that scene was just gone. The one in between. Stuff like that not being there did make for the best viewing experience. And it was a very uneven kind of season. I thought the first 3 episodes were really good. I loved those. Like the Gullet and then inside of Rhaenyra's brain. But then it kind of inconsistent would be probably the best way to say it. It was not the greatest. It seems to me 8 episodes is a big reason. I would say that is the original sin of this season. It's that HBO decided last season that they could only have 10 episodes. I mean, they could only have 8 episodes after starting at 10, and then just told them to chop it, get it out of here. So effectively, the first 2 episodes of this season, I said this in my review, are just the finale from last season. They're just stapled onto this one. So it was really a 6-episode season, and one of those episodes was Rhaenyra running around the Red Keep going like, just losing her mind from lack of sleep and losing Jace and the stress of it all. So you really only had 5 episodes really to go from Rhaenyra takes King's Landing to Tumbleton, which is not a lot of time, I would say. And I would expect that. I don't think they're sloppy in the sense that these scenes and these conversations in between, and even sort of like basic things like travel time and where things are, I don't think they forgot them. I just don't think they had time to establish things. They didn't have time to put in scenes where characters were developing these plots in between. So they kind of just had to hit the bare bones. They kind of had to hit the summary on a lot of things. And you lost a lot this season in a way that, again, as the thumbnail, wherever it is, thumbnail around me says, Thrones is back. This is kind of what happened towards the end of Game of Thrones. But it's a very different problem, because Game of Thrones, towards those seasons, it wasn't that they didn't have time, it's that they didn't have material, and they were kind of vibing their way through the end of it. Most of the time pretty good, but sometimes not so great. Looking at you, Brienne's staring at a window for an entire season, or Bran just being gone. This entire show, they don't have much source material. They don't have these conversations, but they were doing them early on when they had more time, and now they're getting cut. And I think that makes for a much worse viewing experience. If you kind of just focus on the highs and you focus on where characters ended up, what were the plots really like, where did they land, then it's kind of like, yeah, okay, they got there. I understand how they went from A to B to C, but unfortunately there's supposed to be, things in between where characters are having conversations, or they're taking the time to make sure that motivations from one episode to another, as they're changing writers throughout, like, make a lot of sense. And that's kind of, I'm going to go into each of the plot lines, and we're going to go through the characters and stuff, but I think that's kind of like the high level place of where I ended on this season. Yeah, just overall, there were things that were lacking that I did not enjoy. But of course there were many things I did enjoy. This isn't like, oh my god, I hated the season, this is the worst thing ever. Like, I didn't hate Game of Thrones at the end. I didn't think it was good as the earlier seasons, but for kind of different reasons. And that's sort of what we're getting at here. Season 1 of House of the Dragon, there was a lot missing because they were covering 30 years. And this one, they were just missing 2 episodes. And that stuff had to get cut. And I think that sucks. And I don't like that they did that. I don't like the pressures that they're putting on the show when we're getting to the thing that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, I would say, is that this part of the story, season 3 and season 4, which, by the way, season 4 is the end, all of the setup, right? Seasons 1 and 2, jumping through years and decades at a time, introducing these characters, making sure you understand Viserys' choices and Otto's and all these characters that are slowly getting, cut off their moral coil. A big part of all of that was to get to the meat of the story, which is now. It's now. This is when they should be making more episodes. This is when they should be putting most of their effort into making sure that this is the high point of the series. And the second half of the season, I don't think was that. Especially with how many things just did not happen. Not okay. Let me say this in a real way. They happened, but we didn't see them. There was certainly a song about Fishfeed. They had a scene where they were celebrating Fishfeed, the Battle of Fishfeed, or the Battle at the Lakeshore, where the Lannister soldiers pretty much get massacred to a man in the lake by the Winter Wolves, the Rivermen, and Daemon. It's a whole big thing. Like, it's a disaster. It's one of the bloodiest things in Fire and Blood, and they just kind of didn't do it. And that kind of thing I found disappointing. It's disappointing when it happens like once. It's much more disappointing when it kind of keeps happening and when it becomes a pattern. I was hopeful when I saw the first episode, the first 4 episodes with my my press preview or whatever. I was like, okay, they like skip some stuff I would like to see, but you know, they still got 4 episodes, and it was like, no, this is just kind of how it was going. Let me check out the chat. What are you guys saying? Oh, by the way, make sure you like the stream. Subscribe if it's your first time here. There's more episodes from my channel coming out as we go into the off season, and then as we're going into A Night of the Seven Kingdoms in the spring. So gonna kind of finish out House of the Dragon coverage. My next one's about Alice Rivers. Shocker. Oh my god, I'm making a video about Alice Rivers. Who'd have thought? I'm making a video about Alice Rivers. Nobody has ever predicted something that crazy. Nobody would ever consider me, who made 2 Alice Rivers videos this season out of 5, is going to make another one. But I've got more coming. One about Criston Cole. I want to talk about Helena and her tapestry and that kind of stuff. So that sort of stuff is still coming. Does our intelligence hinder our enjoyment? I guess it depends what you like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon for. If you really like it for court drama and you like it for, you know, battles and cool CGI stuff, then it is hitting everything you want out of it. And it's not like the show is going to nothing. It's not like there's nobody watching. They're still getting, well, like 20 million viewers or something an episode or something crazy like that. It's still a huge hit. But for what I look for, seeing how a well-crafted story plays out is what generally I go for from it. Now, because of the fact that I am a fandom dweeb who spends so much time thinking about this stuff, when I see them skip stuff, in my head, I can sort of dub it in. I expect most of you can as well. That's sort of the point of being like a super fan. I know how Fishfeed is supposed to go. I know how the Battle of the Red Fork, or yeah, the Battle at the Red Fork is supposed to go, or the sack of High Tide and stuff, and other scenes like that. And so I can be like, well, okay, I kind of know what happens. If you don't know that stuff, boy, is that jarring when they're just celebrating. It's like, wait, what happened to Jason last year? Wait, what are they singing about? What's, you know, sometimes they make shows for a show like this, it's a big tent show, so they make it for lots of different people, lots of different interests, I would say. So I don't think it's a hindrance. It's just, I'm not mad. I'm just kind of, I'm a little bit disappointed, I guess is the way of saying it. There's a lot of people that rage bait this, like, oh my god, it's the worst thing ever. They're ruining the show. It's just like, I wish I was this entertained more. Katrina, luckily my favorite streamer is back. Thank you. Welcome back, Katrina. It's been a while. Nurse Moonshine says, Joe, we are so glad to see you addressing this, but I want to hear perspective. Need more commentary on this and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Love your insight. You've been missed. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love The Night of the Seven Kingdoms. That was fantastic. And especially because I think it was just because it was so focused on that tournament. So you really did get to see character interactions and these small moments, and even things that don't seem important to the big plot. When you look back at it, how Dunk interacted with the people, hints about Egg, all this other like wonderful little moments where you get to know them as people. Whereas House of the Dragon in the second half of the season really felt like, it felt too much like Fire and Blood. If that, oh my god, they actually adapted it. They actually adapted Fire and Blood, where it's like summaries where they're just bouncing from plot point to plot point. My god, I never even considered this. It's finally a faithful adaptation. Characters are just kind of doing stuff according to the plot, and they're not having real human interactions. Oh, it's back. Actually, I don't really like Fire and Blood that much for that reason. But yeah, I'm really excited for Night of the Seven Kingdoms season 2. And, you know, maybe HBO will let them have more episodes next year for the finale of House of the Dragon. Maybe they'll get back to that kind of stuff. Hey, Nicola Jurgen. Oh, super chat from Mac Mitchell. So apparently the season will be released on DVD in December. We include considerably extended episodes with cut scenes. Very interesting. Are they real? If anybody has a link to that, could you drop it in the chat? I would love to know, to see if that's actually true. If they're really going to do that. It sounds like a fandom rumor, but I would really enjoy seeing the cut scenes. Like the director's cut of season 3 would probably be really, really good, because it's not like this was a disaster of a season. It was like, I don't know, like it was okay. No, it wasn't my favorite. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say this at the beginning of the stream. I put this up in my announcement posts, and I'm gonna drop a link in chat, and it's actually in the description right now if you click down there. I changed my Discord. It previously was like patron and membership only, but I'm gonna silo it, where there's gonna be the free section where anybody can join, and hang on, I'm gonna drop it in the chat, and then there's gonna be premium channels for people that want to see like behind the scenes stuff, if they want to see thumbnails as I'm working on them, as I workshop ideas, all that kind of stuff. So that would be kind of siloed away from each other. So I'm dropping the Discord link in the chat. So if you guys want to join, go ahead. But so I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Mac Mitchell, for the $5 super chat. It's very kind of you. I appreciate it. Feels like there's so much to get through. It's only going to maintain or get worse. I would hope they would do more for the final season. I would hope that they find time, but I know how I guess it kind of depends on where they're going to end. You know? In a few minutes, I'll start going through like each plot line and kind of what I thought of them and sort of summarizing them. But this is kind of like just like where we're starting. I'm trying to set the stage for what we're about to see. Maybe I should get out Aemon's nipples off my screen. I don't know. There we go. Criston, I can't believe Criston Cole killed Blackwood. Unbelievable. How could they assassinate the Blackwoods like this by making them die to Criston Cole? Oh, you guys can see me flipping through all those. Yeah, you saw my background from Blade Runner 2049. Couldn't get into the first 2 seasons, but the season 3 had my full attention. It's not that there weren't exciting moments. It's not that there wasn't things to invest in. It was just lesser, in my opinion, as the second half of the season was. I would say it was significantly not as great for me as a viewer watching it, which doesn't mean it's not. Everybody has different opinions. Knocking off episodes feel like kneecapping them. Yeah, like if they're gonna get to the Regency, I'm not really gonna go into too many spoilers about where Fire and Blood ends and where this is going, but they have a lot to cover, and they don't have. I don't know if they're gonna be able to do it in 8 episodes in a convincing and fulfilling way. That's what I'll say about that. I like Alice Rivers too. Alice Rivers is great. Don't mind them skipping battles because they're hugely expensive. The more character interactions would be great. I don't think I needed to see the entire Battle of Fishfeed or the entire Battle of the Red Fork or the entirety of the sacking of High Tide and other scenes like that. But it's glaring that they didn't even try. Like, we kind of saw the aftermath of the Red Fork where Daemon is fighting the Lannisters and then Roddy walks up with the head and throws it on the ground, and it's like, that's at least something, I guess. They just had a bunch of guys lay down and do that. I know they were budget constrained and they were time constrained, and they're like, well, Tumbleton's going to be the premier battle of the season. but it's also the Dance of the Dragons. Like, this is explicitly a war story. Cutting the wars for other things that I was a huge fan of is a choice. On the Alice video. Oh, we ain't done with Alice Rivers. Enjoy being in the world of Westeros, seeing the different periods, love the whole vibe. Game of Thrones franchise, love dragons too. Yeah, it's a wonderful world. I love these books. I love these TV shows. The whole shebang. It's great stuff. Yeah, Night of the Seven Kingdoms is great. Sorry, I really miss well-written character interaction. We're gonna get to some of those points where it was like, not sure what you guys are doing there. Although I will say there were a lot of really good stuff, and it was not, and a lot of it was brand new, which I think is kind of the opposite of what people expect about House of the Dragon. You know, the idea is when they do things that are bad, fans call it fan fiction. Oh my God, they're making stuff up. It's the worst thing in the world. How could they do this? But I think if you look at the parts of the season that were widely praised, a lot of them were made up largely whole cloth. Not everything great this season was made up by the writers in terms of like there's no material there. But if we're talking about like Ormond and Daron, if we're talking about Gwane's arc, like his entire arc, like he's already dead. Actually, that might be a fun video I could do. I'd be like, in Fire and Blood, where are the characters right now at the Battle of Tumbleton? Where is everybody actually in the history book? What are they doing? Because Gwane is dead at this point. Aegon and Larys, that is a plot line, and those interactions that came out of literal nowhere. There is no information in Fire and Blood about where they went and what they were doing during this time. Just that they are gone. They are just off the page. So every one of those scenes, every one of those conversations that people really enjoyed, brand new. But anyway, hey, good morning, Kirsty Angel. I agree, Mark Sutton. I think if they had the 10 episodes, they probably would have fit in Fishfeed, because they would have put the Gullet, like you're saying, they would have put the Gullet where it was supposed to be at the end of season 2. Oh, thank you, Catsent. We're watching Night of the Seven Kingdoms as we speak. Yeah, the fun thing is you can just go read the short stories. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, like the entire. Hang on. Don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. This is all the stories. This is all 3 of them. Hang on, let me get it in frame. Hang on. There we go to face cam for this one. This is it. Like 1/3 of this is the Hedge Knight, 1/3 of it is the Sworn Sword, and the other 1/3 is the Mystery Knight. So really good, really well written, really good book, and pretty short. So it doesn't take much to catch up on it. Criston Cole is a cheesy. Hot take. I didn't. The things that we're going to talk about this in a few minutes when we start going into like going step by step through it. The parts I didn't like about Cole's story were not the broad strokes, and that's kind of the story of a lot of these. It was kind of the interactions, or like it went on too long, I will say, but I will get into that. Where do I think season 4 ends? That's a pretty big spoiler. I don't really know. It's hard to say. There's a couple logical endpoints, like the Hour of the Wolf, or maybe there because they focus so hard on Ice and Fire. Maybe that's where they're going to end. I'm not sure. But to get to the Hour of the Wolf and the Regencies and stuff like that, like that's a lot to cover in 8 episodes. Like they're going to bang through those, like a lot of material. Yeah, I agree, Mark Sutton. That's basically what I thought. That's what I said in the review at the beginning of the season. Like, I know it was a budget thing, but it was stupid. Like, that was an easy layup, but I guess they didn't want to rebuild the set and then destroy it. I get it, but there's ways of destroying it where you don't destroy it. But anyway, oh, that's a fun thing. 5:30 in the morning, Cursed Angel. My goodness. Actually, where's everybody watching this from at the moment? Got 65 of you lovely people in here. Head sound off in the chat where you're watching from. This always gives me a kick. Because I'm talking to a computer, but this is going out all over the world. You're the goat? No, you're the goat. Thank you very much. Yeah, Gwane's story was... Gwane doesn't have a story in Fire and Blood, so giving him anything was a delight. Oh, make sure you slam that like button. Helena being made a dreamer, that's another character that doesn't have a story in Fire and Blood. Effectively is not a person. May as well not be. She exists to move the plot along in Fire and Blood. Now she's a real person, and I think that's way better. Oh boy. We got a wide array of options. Italy, wow. First time on the live stream. Hey, welcome. Glad you could make it. I guess that would be a good question too for how many people in the chat. Is this your first stream, or are you a Quad stream veteran that has been just praying and hoping that I fire up a live stream again after all this time? Okay. All right, so I think we should start. We've been talking about a fair amount already, like Mark Sutton's point, talking about the Gullet. The same, I made that point in my review as well. Let's talk about the Gullet and the fall of King's Landing. I would say the Gullet was pretty close to the high point of the season. And that's a thing that hasn't really changed from season to season, property to property. Game of Thrones makes amazing battles. They always do. They make cinema quality battles all the time, and they are fantastic. And the Gullet was no exception. A visual feast. The action was great. They somehow managed to have a low speed boat chase, which was not a thing I saw coming, but was very interested to see how they were doing it. The dragons interacting with the scorpions was a cool idea. It was like, oh yeah, of course they know how to do this. That was one of the things when they brought them out in Game of Thrones. They're like, look at this antique to shoot down dragons. It's like, of course people from Essos have weapons for shooting down dragons. This is when they would have them, because there were dragons everywhere. There used to be. It makes a lot of sense. It was also a clever thing to drown them. Like, boy, was that hard to watch, but very clever rather than just trying to shoot them. So, you know, I thought that was really good. I didn't enjoy one particular part, and that is they did I think this is one of House of the Dragon's absolute... Hang on, let me pull up actually what we're talking about here. Gullet. So let's pull up the Gullet. I think they did one of their absolute worst habits in the show, and that is they only make time for characters right before they die. They will ignore characters the entire season. They will get like no screen time. You will forget they exist, and then all of a sudden they start talking, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, there's stakes to this character. Shouldn't you care about them? And I give you Sharako Lohar. Sharako Lohar is, I think, very um was portrayed very well. I enjoyed the parts. I like the whole boat chase thing was fun. The fight with Alyn and Corlys was also very entertaining. The entire battle or just like, well, I guess Sharako just kind of tossing the Lannisters overboard because actually don't care about you, get wrecked. Unfortunately, this all just came right before they killed Sharako. Um, and it, I guess, in a sense that in a world where one of the key things that Game of Thrones did, and the books do as well, is they try to surprise you and they try to keep you on your toes. But House of the Dragon always lets you know right when a character is about to die. And it's this whole thing all over again. Give character backstory, start making them interesting, and instantly they're out of here. I mean, I know what happens to Sharako, but they change a lot of things. It could have been different. So I found that part not great that they telegraph these big plot points just with that attention. And I know why they do it. They don't have time. They don't have enough episodes. There's too many characters, etc., etc. This goes back to the original sin argument of HBO's not giving them enough time. And so they don't have time. Like it was, what was it? Jaehaerys, little Jaehaerys. He existed the entire time, but put that kid on screen right before they sawed his head off. So same thing as Sharako. Oh yeah, I've done a lot of Robert streams. At least this time I got my noise gate on, so I'm not breathing directly into the mic the whole time. Look at that. Noise gate is working. I was embarrassed by that last stream. God, I breathed just like straight into that mic over and over and over again, and I didn't even realize there was anything wrong. Actually, it was a like recorded video, not a stream, but whatever. Oh boy. Oh wait, was that a stream? No, I think that was a recorded video. Studies insects in the show. Yeah. She also dreams things and she cares about stuff. They're Miami, Massachusetts, to Massachusetts. Hello. Oxford, Jacksonville, Washington, New Orleans, Australia. The West, what's a West Midland? Where is that? Is that like, would that make you like, if this were Game of Thrones world, would the Western Midlands make you a subject of the Lannisters? Because like Westeros is sort of England. Little Rock, Arkansas, London, hello, and a few Los Angeles. Yeah. But yeah, I thought the Gullet was great. I remember distinctly talking to Grey Area about Jace's death, and Grey was like, why didn't I feel anything about Jace's death? And I thought it was tragic, and I thought it was hard to watch in a good tragic sort of sense. And it was his hubris that made it happen. That was kind of one of those moments where I was like, wait, what? And the part that made me kind of cock my head when I saw it was they got there because Jace locked Rhaenyra in her room and then nobody would let her out so he could run off and do battle. And I didn't quite understand that part, especially because the thing that drove me crazy was if you look at the scene, so Rhaenyra is locked in, she's pounding the door. In the back of the frame, there's another door that's not locked. Run over to the other door. There's 2 doors in this room. You can get out of here, Rhaenyra. But you know, they didn't like clear the camera. They just wanted Jace to get into the battle and die at the Gullet. And that's because they largely cut out why Jace is in danger, that he was trying to protect his two brothers. But those kids are basically gone from the show until they will be useful again. Little Viserys and little Aegon are, like, he was trying to protect their boat, the gay abandon. And so I saw that. I pointed out my review, and I was just kind of like, yeah, it's probably only one off. It probably wasn't like, wasn't a huge deal. Like, they're not going to do this over and over again. Yeah, no, they, that kind of thing just kind of kept happening, where they were just sort of rushing through it a little bit. I think the part that I didn't quite track, and I want to know what you guys in the chat thought about this too. So the whole thing about, let me see if I can find this. The whole thing about Jace's death and the plot about Rhaena with Sheepstealer is that everybody thought that Rhaena and Sheepstealer caused Jace's death. But I didn't think she did. I didn't think Sheepstealer made Jace die. Like, Jace was already almost killed once in the battle already when Sharako almost skill shot in him with the harpoon thing. And like, I guess he got dangerously too close to the ships because he was running from Sheepstealer, but also he and Baela were attacking. So I had trouble tracking that whole logic. Like, I understood why Rhaenyra was upset. It's like Sheepstealer showed up and it caused chaos, and that's how Jace died. That's the story she was told. But I was confused that like Raina and Baela were like, "Oh yeah, Raina did it." I was like, "Did she?" Like, press 1 in the chat for me if you think Raina and Sheepstealer causes Jace's death. Press 2 if you don't think so. And I get they had decided that was going to be a big problem between Rhaenyra and Daemon and Rhaena, that hiding her identity was going to be a whole thing that was going to be part of a conflict between the two of them. Okay, that's fine. That's a good plot point, but I don't think that I didn't see it on the screen. I didn't see it that like Sheepstealer and Rhaena were definitely the cause of Jace's death. It's not like they ate him. Like, he got shot by another harpoon and they were shooting at him all the time. Yeah. Maybe I'm working with, I just made the argument that why I don't think it was their fault. So maybe I poisoned the well, but I didn't quite understand that whole thing. And it was, yeah, not my favorite. I will say though that this is another example of the ending of the little plot arc they were on being much better than how they got there. For instance, Rhaenyra's, as I have on screen right there, Rhaenyra's devastation at losing Jace and the carrying of his body and her telling him to get up and like pounding on his body was incredibly heartbreaking, and an incredible performance by Emma Darcy, and also what a great performance by Harry Collette to lay there. Maybe it was maybe they used the stunt, maybe they used like a mannequin at certain points, but I think it was him. But yeah, Emma Darcy acted the hell out of that. I teared up at that scene. It was emotionally devastating in a way that it wasn't when he was shot down, because like, I definitely felt for Jace as he was drowning, and that sinking feeling and seeing Vermax go down in the water. That was a beautiful sequence that was extraordinarily well made. But then it just kind of, it's Rhaena's fault? Was it Rhaena? I would show Jace caused Jace's death. Book Jace was Yeah, he was shot with arrows in the water and then just slowly sinks down. Yeah, so it was a little bit uneven. Went like, what's going on? Okay, this is pretty good. Wow, this is amazing. Oh, Rhaenyra's at fault? All right, fine. I guess that's the plot they're gonna go with. We'll get to the Nettles Rhaena stuff later. Let's see here. Oh, so the Midlands are the Riverlands. Okay. I don't know a lot about England, but thank you. So I also, going back to the point I made earlier, the sacking of High Tide and Driftmark being a thing that happens off screen was not a great decision. And I think because it led to a lot of confusion later in the season about, I talked about this in my latest video, the one about how Thailand hid the money and how it was a huge problem for Rhaenyra. A massive part of the sack is not just that the Triarchy burns down the Velaryon holdings. They don't just destroy Spice Town and Hull. They literally steal Corlys's gold and wealth. And at that point, from that point forward, he is effectively broke. The decision to just have him doing face mogging it. Yeah, where is it? This one. Him just going, while appropriate for a reaction to what he's seeing, which is a ship at high tide and like seeing some smoke come up, the Velaryon home and particularly Corlys's throne room was one of the best scenes that they made early on in the show. It was excellent. It was lavish. It had treasures from all over the world. Corlys had his own custom driftwood throne, which was awesome. And where that all was destroyed, but it was destroyed off screen, and you don't really feel the impact of it. You feel the impact by Corlys's reaction, who talks about it later, like, I am ruined. I get that, but it's one thing to tell me it happened and that it matters. It's another thing to see a bunch of pirates running off with the wealth of with the house of House Velaryon and his home being burned to the ground, really putting an end to kind of all those scenes of him and Rhaenys. Like, that time in Corlys's life is over. And I'm guessing they just don't have the set anymore, and that's why they didn't do it, but I didn't like it. I didn't think that was a good way to do it. I understand it would have been like a 30-second scene, but it would have been much more effective and make it a lot more understanding the pressure that Corlys is on. Because if you missed that line, if you didn't really comprehend what he was saying about how I'm ruined, the pressures that Rhaenyra is under economically don't make as much sense. Like, there was a question earlier, do you think our intelligence as fans is a hindrance? In this case, you have to fill in that you know that this is a problem. You have to fill in that you're aware that Corlys now has basically nothing. His fleet is destroyed. He has almost no wealth. And because the Velaryons don't really have vassals, he's not getting any more. Especially because they destroyed Hull and Spice Town. Like, these are huge problems. And just having it off screen with just in the distance with it burning is underselling what a huge moment it was for the Blacks there, that High Tide got sacked and Corlys lost everything. He is bankrolling their side and he no longer can. And to kind of get back to the point about connective tissue, I think that's a big piece of connective tissue to leave on two lines effectively. This scene where Corlys is watching, and another one when he's found again and talking to the rest of the Velaryons, like, I have like nothing left to give you. We're kind of screwed. That's a lot to hang on. That's something that's visually much more impactful that I would have liked to see. I think that's kind of a very big broad strokes thing that's missing, that's important, that they didn't do. Which is, again, not to take away from how much I enjoyed the Gullet as a whole battle action sequence, dragons, Jace dying, Rhaenyra's like reaction. That stuff was all great, but this is something that probably got left on the planning or cutting room floor that they really needed to do. So the richest man in Westeros didn't have any savings in any bank. No, that's a plot point from Fire and Blood, that Corlys' wealth isn't necessarily in gold, I would say. He went on these 7 voyages all over the world and came back with a lot of exotic trade goods and like jewels and stuff like that. And it was all stuff sitting in his treasury because banks in Westeros aren't really a thing. Like, for instance, there are no banks in Westeros at this time. The ones that start up end up failing relatively quickly. Like there's the Bank of Old Town that starts and fails. There's another one that comes up in the next few decades. I don't think they're going to cover it. It's an SOC bank that tries to be started in King's Landing. It falls apart. So all the lords keep their wealth basically in their castles, in vaults, or that sort of thing. So when they stole Corlys' stuff, they stole his money. Effectively all of it. And also they ran out with big sacks of gold as well, gold and silver. So yeah, Corlys' bank's basically bankrupt at this point. And by sacking the towns of Hull and Spicetown, he no longer has anything to tax, because that's where a lot of his domestic revenue was coming from. I'm going to do a video about this at one point in how do you make money as a lord in Westeros. It's very non-intuitive because the economic system is so far from ours. But yes, effectively, it's a plot point in Fire and Blood and here that Corlys basically loses everything because he's an adventurer. That's who he is. He makes mistakes, or that's how George wrote him. We got a super chat from Kirsty Angel. We'd be continue delving into Duncan Strong and him being alive. Oh yeah, that plot point that came up. Yeah. I didn't make a video about that, but I will at some point. Need a Q&A with Amanda following your Dunk collabs. Dunk the Long Night. That was a crazy thing that Dexter revealed, that Dunk survived Summerhall. Duncan Strong will be a video I'll make at some point, probably before the next season, and also talking about his connections to Brienne and Dunk's predilections of many, many children. But thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate Kirsty. So what else? And then the Fall of King's Landing. I talked about this during my review. I want to know what you guys think, because I see these things on my own, right? At least most of the episodes for the finale I saw early, and I basically watched them on my own. When Daemon was taking the Red Keep, and then he runs into the throne room, and the Hightower soldiers run out in a flying V, and are like, and he's like, the king's guide, I forget his name, was like, the Prince Regent will hear of this, like he's Draco Malfoy, and then the gold cloaks run up behind him. Was I the only one that thought that was corny? That I was like, this feels like something from a different show. It was kind of bizarre to me. Daemon the Action Hero was kind of fun. I did one of, I was like, yeah, when it turns out that yes, Otto Hightower was exactly where I thought he was. I made that video. Actually, I released it right before Night of the Seven Kingdoms. It was quite late, but I made a prediction about where Otto Hightower was, where that jail cell was at the end of season 2. And I was like, I think Larys took him. And I think Larys stashed him in the black cells and nobody can find him, but he's right underneath their feet. And then they did that. And I was like, woo, I did it. Correct prediction. I thought the most effective scene, that one of the most effective scenes though that they did this season with Rhaenyra was the her struggling to behead Otto, the two like hit him in the neck, failed, and then her taking the Iron Throne in tears, like literally walking through blood to get there. That is such a good scene for the end of season 2. But it was very effective. I thought it was great. Yeah, Fall of King's Landing was kind of interesting. I didn't even clock this on the first time through. I don't know how many of you guys did too. So it turns out those soldiers that Alicent and Helena command to stand down, those are the guys that are running the assassination plot in King's Landing afterwards. That was a shocker to me. Oh, I should have muted my mic for that one. I have a lot to say about Larys that I'll get to when we talk about Aegon and Larys, but suffice to say, it was cool that's what they did with Otto. Like, that was a whole thing. It makes it makes perfect sense as the end point of season 2 to be like, ooh, where's Otto? We set up this mystery. Who's he been in conflict with? Oh, it's Larys the whole time. Oh, he's the one who kept him in prison. It was just like a little strange for season 3. Let's see here. So the fall of King's Landing, Rhaenyra's grief. It was perfect timing, though, that Alicent happens to walk in the throne room at the exact time that Otto is lying there dead with a pool of blood. Like, nailed that one. So let's go on to the next part. And I would say it's kind of a larger topic here. Like, it was maybe the A plot of the season. And it was Rhaenyra's failure to rule and kind of unraveling as she tries to take control of the Seven Kingdoms to varying degrees of success. So I would say that this plot line came with a post-it note that was stuck like probably to the dry erase board they have in their offices for House of the Dragon where they're planning this. And it says in maybe underlined and stars around it, and in the biggest text they could write, it says, don't make Rhaenyra Daenerys. Whatever we do not make her Daenerys. When she fails, it has to feel set up. It has to feel like a inevitable conclusion of who we know as a character and a slower downfall instead of a leap to World War Dragon. And I would say that is the entire reason episode 3 exists, which I would say was probably my favorite episode of the season. I loved episode 3. The what they call it, the experimental episode. Yeah, let me pull up this for you. Rhaenyra. Ooh. There we go. Her and her rat feast. Yeah. Do not make her Daenerys. And I've been detailing that throughout a number of videos throughout House of the Dragon so far. Going back to the Willem Blackwood one, talking about the death of Jace, and also the one I recently put out about Tylan and his gold, and it's kind of touched on in the Daemon Daenerys video I put out. It's that Rhaenyra this whole time has a lot of fatal flaws as a ruler, and most of them, I would say, come back to the fact that although Viserys pushed her to be the heir when it would have been very easy for him to say, all right, whatever, it's Aegon, and just avoid pretty much all of this, even if that's not what he wanted. Rhaenyra as a character doesn't have the knowledge and the skills and also the people around her to help her succeed in what is effectively her new job, which is Queen of the Seven Kingdoms and, more importantly, ruler of King's Landing. Those are extraordinarily difficult things to do. Many of the most successful rulers in Westerosi history basically delegated everything to their main skills were identifying quality people and letting them do it under them, and then taking a lot of the credit. Because it is such an absurdly complicated and tenuous position to have, especially when you're someone like Rhaenyra, who, while she is exceptionally intelligent and she has she used to have a good sense of right and wrong, and doesn't really have too big of an ego about her. The problem is that there's really no schooling, I guess, to be this. Being the ruler of Dragonstone for the last few years while her kids grew up, I made this point in my last video that is so far and away from managing something the size of King's Landing or managing the Seven Kingdoms that it may as well not even qualify. Because that's like running a small country household versus being the mayor of New York, effectively. Like if you're running like Dragonstone is so much smaller, the pressures are so much less intense. So when Daemon convinces her to take the Iron Throne, to take King's Landing, it is effectively it's bait, basically. Like it looks like it's everything she wants, but it's done in a way that makes it so that she will fail. It's done in a way that makes it so that she doesn't have firm control of the place, and she doesn't have firm control of the people or even the counselors around her. Everybody's working against her, and she doesn't have a lot of allies, and she's lived a pretty isolated life. So it's no wonder that when she starts trying to rule and make decisions and play politics, that she kind of gets overwhelmed. Never mind the fact that she's not sleeping and she's coming off the death of Jace, and she's still in the middle of this huge war, and she's got conflicting advice coming from all her counselors. She doesn't really have a good sense of what does she want her rule to be like, and that makes it so it's about nothing. And that's kind of the fatal flaw here, where it's like she's like, I want to be a good ruler in order to be worthy of Viserys choosing me, and that's a problem because that's not a goal, that's not a plan. Good ruler how? Who are you modeling yourself after? What are your tax policies? Looking at you, Torrhen Manderly. It's a huge problem. And I would say that they did an excellent job in episode 3 and probably the rest of the season talking about how her inability to have a clear vision of where she wants to go and what she wants her rule to be like, kind of just solving problems as they come up to her, is creating an issue. Creating issue after issue after issue. And also the fact that her counselors are all fighting with each other and she left a bunch of them behind. So she doesn't have too many allies. And also, I would say the Rat Feast, while I totally understand why her as a character would think that was a good idea, it comes off as her scolding the rest of the nobles about how they're leeches on society, that they're hoarding wealth so that they can survive and they don't care about the common people. Like, Rhaenyra, you blockaded King's Landing. Like, the suffering was your fault. And it's stuff like that where she's trying to please Mysaria, then she's trying to please Daemon, then she's trying to please Viserys, and it's all kind of going nowhere. And I think that's why I found her depiction throughout the season particularly effective. And I thought it was one of the high points. Although some of the things, again, this is like the connective tissue had problems in between. Yeah. Like the High Septon murder, like that was kind of crazy that happened. And they were really playing with the idea the entire season. I made the video about Daemon and Daenerys and Rhaenyra during the season about how the prophecy that Alice gave Daemon about Daenerys is going to lead them astray and eventually destroy them. And we could see it on full display that as Rhaenyra got more desperate, she started looking more towards not just being Viserys's choice, but the gods' choice, that they had chosen her to rule. So it kind of forgives everything that she's going to do. And man, was that, did that come out true? Everything they did was pretty wild throughout the season. Another 2 years we see Larys again. Yeah, that's a bummer. Oh, hey, History of Westeros. Which one of you are watching the live stream? Is this a Shay or is this a Z's? I'm so jealous you guys got to see the play. That looked really fun. Can't wait till it comes to America so I can see it. Sarah saying, what about all the rules she was at court? I know Viserys' poor ruling is what led to all this, but to be serious about her being the one to rule, know the prophecy, but no education. So I know this is in Fire and Blood, we get the example that she sits at the bottom of the throne while Viserys is ruling, and it's from that she learns how to deal with people, which is extremely poorly. She has a very bad example in Viserys of a ruler that is effective in times of stress. Viserys did extremely poorly at times of stress and conflict. He was really good when things were just kind of coasting. And I would say they went out of their way in season 1 to show us that when Rhaenyra tried to engage, that she tried to push herself forward to be like, if I'm going to be heir, then let me be heir. And Viserys basically being like, no, like Otto's in control. And then after that, no, Alicent's in control. He sabotaged her and never really get her close enough to power to learn how it works. Even the scenes where she was on the small council, it was clear that Alicent was the one in control, and it was kind of playing politics. Like, she never had a, this is going to sound strange because there aren't really these things within a medieval court, but she was never had a job. She never had people to look after. She never had to like worry about how the running of the city and the realm actually went, because Viserys never made her the real like a hand of the king figure. That was either Otto or then it was Alicent, and then in between it was oh god, what's his name? Lord Strong. How am I forgetting a Strong name? Oh my god. Maybe I've lost it. Yeah. It's a lot of it comes back to Viserys, that, and it's not like Rhaenyra as a character could just go somewhere else. You know, it's not like there's a medieval lord finishing school she could go to and learn how to do this. It was either nothing or read more books. And I guess she just read a lot of books, but that's not really the same thing. It's like, yeah. And then there were just competing factions within her court that I felt that were the Mysaria Daemon whole thing was going on. That was something else. Let me go back to my notes real fast. And then I think a major problem that I think is undersold, and one thing that they were drawing on heavily from Daenerys that people criticize them day in and day for in seasons 7 and 8 for her, is that they made sure that we as the audience felt the loss that Rhaenyra had about Jace, about Luke, about the state of the loss of Viserys, the state of King's Landing, the pressures she's under. It's not that this is Rhaenyra at her best, and I don't think you're supposed to understand that in an ideal situation, this is how Rhaenyra would behave. This is how Rhaenyra is trying to rule in a situation where it is a massive pressure cooker in the middle of a war where she feels like at any point Vhagar could show up and just kill them all. This is not a simple thing. This is a very, very, very intense situation. And I think the parts that resonated the best to make sure that we saw that is that they did during the season a lot of callbacks to previous seasons, in particular Aegon. They did, if you go back and do shot construction, in particular, like when she's on the Iron Throne, there's this really good one where Aegon is trying to make decisions on the Iron Throne. And you see Larys up in the gallery just kind of watching us doing. And then this season, let me see if we can find it. Boom! They redid the exact same scene. They did these callbacks a lot. They wanted to make sure that we understood that her and Aegon are both relatively sucking at the job because they're both new. They don't know how to do this. Rulers don't know how to do this, especially kings. It takes quite a long time and quite a lot of effort for these rulers to actually learn how to do anything. And Rhaenyra's kind of been dealt the worst hand possible because story. When she had him remove Otto's hand, he should have named her his hand. Probably. That's what Viserys should have done, but we know that as he was kind of hedging his bets, that Viserys believed his dream about Aegon, and so he was really uncertain about Rhaenyra being the heir in like his deepest heart. So yeah, he just kind of went all over the place on it. And Rhaenyra is reaping the consequences. So here Viserys saying she's inept to show as farcical. She shouldn't be a good ruler, but we see how kids of nobility are taught. She should have some political instinct, even if terrible. I think she would if she wasn't under the most stress possible. And I think that actually reflects worse on Aegon than people realize. That Aegon's under some stress when he comes to power and starts just screwing everything up, but it's kind of not really the same. Like Rhaenyra's is all over the place. Oh, that's not good. Did my stream just crash? It looked like it crashed. What's another thing I want to talk about? Oh, I think that in particular, one part of the King's Landing plot that I wasn't a super big fan of, like, I think I'm kind of gushing about how I liked Rhaenyra's plot this season, because when you read Fire and Blood, it's like, it's night and day. She is just the worst. They describe her as the worst person possible. They call her Magor Teats. She stumbles over everything in like a very deliberately cruel way. That's how they describe her. However, here they went out of their way to make sure it was all understandable and specific problems that are being motivated by recent events and faults in her relationship to her father and his inability to really trust her. But I want to talk about these guys. Let's talk about the Gold Cloaks and Luther Largent. This part of the plot I found pretty ridiculous. And I may as well kind of talk about part of it now. You can see that there was a lot of editing problems that came about with this whole sequence with the green insurgency, because, and I think it's a difference of the seasons, that they wrote parts of it during season 2 and some of it during season 3, because when the words Queen of Bastards are written across the city walls, it is signed with Larys Strong's mark. When Otto Hightower is retrieved, one of his men basically says like a gift from the Master of Whispers or whatever he says to them. And it's like, you're supposed to understand that this is actually Larys, that the Gold Cloaks being killed, the rabble rousing in the city is Larys, that even from afar, he still has his agents, his little rats throughout King's Landing, and they're causing problems for Luther Largent and his gang of goons. And then they kind of take a hard turn on it, and they're like, no. Ignore your silly eyes. No. This is Ormond Hightower. Ormond Hightower is the one behind all of this, because he paid off one of the guys with a Daron coin. So actually, he's the one that's directing King's Landing. And it's like, wait, what? Wait, who has a spy network of assassins ready to go within King's Landing? The Master of Whispers for King's Landing, or Ormond Hightower, a guy who has never set foot in the city? I found that that's that kind of like connective tissue kind of stuff, where the in-between of getting to the Feast of Traitors and Daemon's rah Gold Cloak scene, and then how you get there, and the minutia of the plot of like they're using pigeons and Ormond has the contacts in the city. It's like, he does? How does he have these contacts? Where is this coming from? And it's kind of from nowhere, and that kind of happens a lot. Like we'll talk about it, like Thailand, Sunfire, the missing scene with Raina, like this one in particular here, the Gold Cloaks, is kind of a mess of a plot line. And it's also it's weird that there's really no fallout to it, I guess. So we go through the thing, and Ormond Hightower's assassins guild that he made up in King's Landing is going out and murdering all the Gold Cloaks. They're killing them one by one, like brutally killing them. And based on what's in the season, we're supposed to understand that the people of King's Landing are actually on their side. They hate the Gold Cloaks, and they have this coming so they can all die. Now, I'm not going to defend the Gold Cloaks. They are ruthless thugs. And when Rhaenyra told them to get rid of the Queen of Bastards graffiti, they went out and they broke heads, and they do it all the time. But then it was like, actually, we really need the Gold Cloaks. The city's going to turn to chaos with these guys all dead. What are we going to do? Rhaenyra, you have to do something about it. And it's like, you're all the people that refuse to narc on their killers because apparently you agree with them being murdered. It was a very uneven sort of plot line that I don't know. And then I think the thing I enjoyed the most about it was actually Luther Largent being Harwin's Strong Part 2. That in episode 3, like, look at they even styled him to look like Harwin. He's wearing the same like exact kind of armor. He's got the beard, he's got the curly black hair. He's following her around like he did when he was her sworn shield. Like, that was kind of fun. I liked the connecting the two characters. Luther Largent in Fire and Blood. Fire and Blood is like kind of nothing. This was at least interesting, but I don't know. the whole Gold Cloaks thing was extremely okay, extremely strong is probably too strong. Hey, I didn't really care for it very much. And the extreme graphic violence of the feast for traitors. I stared at that for like 5 minutes. I would love to hear in the chat why, if we're taking this from perspective, it's the green assassins, Ormond's men, are the one who murdered them and like cut out all their organs and left them on the table and made like a Dexter tableau style extreme gory violence and called them traitors. Why are they traitors? Did anyone actually think the Gold Cloaks were loyal to Aegon? Because they were explicitly Daemon's fighting force, and they have been the whole time, to the point that during the season 1 scene where they're talking about the Gold Cloaks, one of the first thing Otto says is, by the way, we have to like change out the captains right away. We have to put in men who are loyal to Aegon because we know they're not. That they will side with Daemon over Aegon. And it's like a running problem that they know they're not. So to have them be put on this extremely graphic, like slasher movie kind of violence, and to be portrayed as like the worst traitors ever, it's like, they are? I don't think they were. Oh, hey Sanri, how you doing? Sanri Scribbles has showed up. The chat disappeared in your screen. Okay. Sent. Oh, you sent a treat. Thank you for the treat, Sanri. I would just one thing in the chat, I would just be a little bit careful about spoilers about what you're saying. Not everyone here, there's quite a lot of show fans that watch my videos, so like maybe don't explicitly say that kind of stuff. I assume the strong signal was reference to the strong boys, not Larys. I don't think so, because they had a heavy Larys component that then became Ormond. I think there's a whole dropped plot this season with about Larys where like he was doing a lot more, and then they sort of just changed it to be Ormond, because and I know this kind of happened because I was listening to Mallory and Joanna Robinson, Mallory Rubin and Joanna Robinson, they're not both named Robinson, on The Ringer. They were talking to Ryan Condal, and effectively they said, Ryan said, is when they got James Norton to be Ormond, they changed quite a lot of their planning for the season. They said that they didn't expect to get an actor that good, and when they only had him for 1 season, they ramped up his screen time and really ramped up who Ormond was as a character. So I think that's kind of what happened, that they were planning for Matthew Needham and Larys to be a lot more tuned in to what was going on in King's Landing, but when you have James Norton, you use James Norton, and so he got a plot that was meant for somebody else. Called the episode Faceless Men. Didn't have any faceless men. Murders might have been sense of the green. Yeah, they were like really effective soldiers. They were super good at killing Gold Cloaks. Like, Gold Cloaks aren't any good, but man, those soldiers were great. I didn't like it, didn't make sense, and there was no point to it in the end. Yeah, I think it was done. I think the Feast for Traitors was done as like an admonishment of Daemon, where it was like, it was explicitly after he did the thing like, hey guys, we're gonna conquer the world, New Valyria, we're gonna burn everything to the ground, and then immediately all his men get murdered. I'm guessing that's what was going on there. I don't really get it. I don't think they were traitors. And I think making them out to be the worst traitors in King's Landing, like, was it punishment for them going around beating up dudes? I don't think so, because the Gold Cloaks have been beating up people ever since Daemon. Like, the first introduction to Daemon the Gold Cloaks was them hacking off limbs. them going around beating up some people is like, that's kind of what they do. I didn't really get it. Yeah. Luther Largent also just gets, the thing about Luther was I thought they were going to make into more of a character because they kept having him do stuff and kept not killing him. So I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, maybe Luther Largent is going to survive a lot longer than I thought. Maybe he's going to do some cool stuff. And then they were like, nope. Here's his intestines. Enjoy the intestines. Oh, I was also going to take a quick moment and point out that we opened up the Discord. The invite's only going to work for the next few days. So if you want to join up, you don't have to be a patron. You don't have to be a member. You just won't have access to the premium channel. It's going to drop the link again. There you go. Erin, Mistress of Hammer. She's back. Good to see you too, friend. Writing is really messy sometimes. It is sometimes. I think it's the uneven nature that was kind of getting to me towards the second half of the season. It's messy and uneven. But at other times, really sharp, really smart, and extremely compelling. And it's just kind of like, it's waffling a little bit. Matt David sent me a watermelon for, I got it for 500 jewels. Is that like bits? Is that like bits on Twitch? I'm not quite sure what those are, but thank you for watermelons and jewels, I guess. I'm not really sure what those are. Maybe because Rhaenyra's kids are strong. I think that's where they eventually wanted you to think, but I don't think that's what the intention was at the time. I think a lot of this would have fixed with, again, more episodes, but that's just kind of how it goes. So let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about the Riverlands. Let's get out of King's Landing and Rhaenyra. Let's talk about the Winter Wolves. Let's talk about Oscar Tully. Let's talk about Criston Cole and kind of like the Overland campaign, I suppose, of let me pull this one up. There we go. Hey, there he is. There's our boy Criston. So I would guess the A plot of the Riverlands, other than the battles they didn't do, which were again Fishfeed, Battle at the Red Fork, they were just didn't do them. Criston Cole took up a lot of the screen time this season, in that whole plot line of him doing a guerrilla tactics and then eventually getting caught and killed at Butcher's Ball with the rest of his men. The very few of them are left. And I think my general thought on the whole Criston Cole thing is I actually quite liked Criston Cole's arc as a character, that he's this broken knight, that he's being a lot more like Jaime Lannister, that the realities of war, especially a dragon war, are much worse than he experienced when he was fighting in Dorne, and seeing just the tremendous amount of death and kind of how expendable he is, that is making him, like, to the point that I love the thing where he was drawing back on the sigil of House Cole onto his shield as he was getting more and more disillusioned as a Kingsguard. That was all great. Also, Gwane's inclusion was great because Freddie Fox is a fantastic actor. However, again, this is more of the same. The small moments in between were kind of letting down, we're not holding up the plot lines and arcs that they were going for. In particular, Criston backtracked as a character several times this season, where they basically redid seasons he had from season 2. Like, in particular, I was confused. And I talked to other people who saw the episode early. I was like, wait a second. Why is Gwane confused that Criston's on a death march? Why is he confused that Criston is explicitly expecting them all to die? I'm pretty sure during season 2 they had this conversation already. It was that big conversation where they ended up sitting on the log together, and Gwane's like, you're screwing my sister, and you're leading us to our doom. And he's like, I know. What else are we supposed to do? Like, this is all fucked. Excuse the language. And then they just kind of kept doing that scene over and over again. They kept having Gwane and Criston run through that over and over, where I think it was supposed to be like, well, Gwane was trying to pull him back from the brink, but it just got kind of grating after like the third or fourth time it kept happening, of Criston just being like, yeah, man, we got nothing going on. And that wasn't, I didn't, that part of the in-between nature of it kind of got to me, even though as a whole, I really liked what they're doing with Criston, the broken knight, the soiled knight idea. That was cool. I liked that. And I think part of it that really was confusing to me as a viewer is, let me see if we had another picture of Criston doing his sword fighting thing. I hands up in the chat if you were like me, and when Criston was doing guerrilla warfare against the Riverlanders, and he attacked them at the camp and he killed a whole bunch of them, and then they're like, we're gonna harry them and they're not gonna get anywhere. And it's like, okay, so explicitly you were being told that Criston and the army are going to make sure that no Riverlander goes anywhere without a fight. We're going to make this the worst thing ever. And then the Riverlanders just kind of teleport behind them. I was like, what just happened? Weren't you guys setting traps? Like, that was the whole thing. I didn't quite understand what happened there, why they did that, how they did that. It would have made more sense if that was where they were already, that that the Riverlanders like trapped Criston and forced him to Butcher's Ball instead of being this weird like chase. I didn't quite get it. If you just, and this is sort of what I was getting at the beginning of the stream, where I was like, Game of Thrones is back, like in a derogatory way, like that particular sequence of the Riverlanders teleporting 40,000 men in front of Criston and his men, and burning all the bridges and setting all these traps, and just like, basically, I think you're supposed to understand that because this is their land, they know how to beat them. They know the secret passages. They can get through the swamps and stuff like that faster. Then how is Criston and his men doing anything to them if they could just bypass them that easily? It kind of undercut the plot they were going for. It was quite confusing to me as a viewer how that happened. But Butcher's Ball was, I thought it was great. I know people are like, oh no, actually people in the chat literally just said that. They were like, oh no, he didn't say the exact line in the book. I'm like, okay, they don't have to say the exact line. It wasn't, I don't think it was particularly great as written, but it's one of the few lines that it's actually in Fire and Blood that sounds any good. So it was like, fine, cool, go for it, I guess. But in terms of how Butcher's Ball happened, that they Oscar Tully's line about how I need more bones, I'm gonna build a temple to the dead out of you and your men, all that kind of stuff, like that was great. We actually, and then Criston went sicko mode and killed something like 10, 15 soldiers before he actually died. And I think that was kind of one of those things where during the season, Criston kept being like, I'm the greatest knight in the Seven Kingdoms. I'm the greatest soldier who's ever been, and we haven't seen him fight. Like, we've seen him beat Daemon in a joust, and that was kind of it. So how is he the greatest soldier in the Seven Kingdoms? And finally, during Butcher's Ball, it's like, oh, there it is. Yeah, he actually is a good soldier. It was kind of like Jaime Lannister had that problem in Game of Thrones where they're like, oh, Jaime was the greatest knight who ever was. he was such a great fighter, blah blah blah. And it's like, I don't know if we saw him actually fight anybody. And like maybe Brienne once. So at least that was a payoff of that. But I would say overall, Cole's story was pretty good. Where they went with it, the themes they were drawing on, really playing up the whole idea of the soiled knight, the broken knight, the broken man, that kind of stuff. It just went on like probably 2 episodes too long. It probably should have happened a lot sooner. And because they just kept doing the same plot over and over again, but not in new ways. It was just the same conversations. Criston, this man assaulted this girl. All right, I don't care. Oh, Criston, Aemon's not here. All right, I don't. Sure, whatever. it was kind of odd how it just kind of kept happening. Oh yeah, he fought Ned briefly. Yeah. This, I would say, what they had Criston do in House of the Dragon was a much better representation. It was kind of like what they had Arthur Dayne do in the Tower of Joy scene, where it's like, oh yeah, he is a great fighter. We actually saw it. So that was good. I enjoyed that. Gwane was also a big part of this. Gwane's supposed to be dead. Gwane should have died in the Fall of King's Landing. And I think this is the same thing. I'm pretty sure Condal said the same thing about Gwane as they did Ormond Hightower. When you get Freddie Fox, don't write out Freddie Fox. Keep him on the show. So they have expanded his role far, far longer than he ever was supposed to. I would say the best part of his story was actually at Tumbleton, not the stuff here with Criston. Season 2 Gwane, I think, was with Criston was better than season 3 thing with Gwane, although it was very heartfelt that he was like you can come serve the High Towers, we'll protect you. You don't worry about your oaths, or you can go to the Night's Watch. Like, I thought that was very sweet from Gwane. I'm gonna make a whole video about Criston now during the off season. I had like a 45-minute video about Criston in my heart that I wanted to make, particularly about his legacy, how he's remembered, how he's perceived, like the idea of the Kingmaker. That'll be coming at some point. Maybe the one after Alice, maybe the one after that, but it'll be coming. It's not that Criston's story was bad. I didn't like how they always got there. I'm sounding like Criston this season. I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Oh my God. I would say that even though I made a very popular video about the Winter Wolves and Roddy the Ruin, and I think their display at Tumbleton was really cool, and Roddy's, fighting Ormond when we get there was all great. I think the part of Roddy and the Winter Wolves that let me down was this Riverlands part. They literally do nothing. Like, they get Tommy Flanagan, a really well-respected, very good actor, and they kind of brother raid him. I am certain that this is probably cutting room floor stuff. That I think part of the reason my Winter Wolves, Cregan Stark, Roddy the Ruin video did so good is because they didn't really explain anything about them during the season. So you ended up with a lot of fans going like, wait, who are these guys? What are they doing here? And so lots of people went to YouTube just being like, yeah, who are these guys? Why do they want to die? What's the whole thing? And they never really talked about it. Roddy as a character just keeps declaring he wants to die, and that winter is coming and it's better to die in battle than anything else, but then never explored that in any depth at all, which I found pretty disappointing for characters that they seemingly put a lot of effort into making a high point of the season. There they are. There's those guys. And one thing, I was talking about this in actually Sanrixian's Discord with folks. I think that there was an unevenness to some of the characters here, in particular the bloodthirsty nature of Oscar Tully and the non-character of Black Alley Blackwood seen over there on the far right with the black paint across her eyes. Oscar goes from season 2 being this character that's kind of, he's very I would say Catelyn Stark like, in the sense that he's very buttoned up. He's very, well, honor and oaths are what matters. I would never do that to my grandfather. Like, what matters is justice. And then you go to Oscar Tully this season, and he's like, I'm gonna build a temple of bones. We're gonna kill everybody. There's gonna be blood in the river. We're murdering everybody in sight. And it's like, Oscar, like, what happened? How did you get from season 2 Oscar to this Oscar? And I think the actual answer, or the one that maybe got cut and didn't get shown off, was probably Roddy. Like, I think if I could go back and make one big change to the season, it would be making Roddy the Ormond, like a mentor figure to Oscar and Black Alley, because when he's with them, they really turn up the violence, the bloodlust, how much they really want to go to war. And you can infer, being like, okay, well, they're acting like this great old northern soldier, but you don't see them talking. You don't see them influencing them. Like, why doesn't Oscar ask him about why he's here? Why he's so bloodthirsty? Why does he want to die? And it didn't have to be a big sequence. Like, I would say this could even be something like a campfire scene where the Rivermen and the Northmen are all sitting around and they're talking about, like, you could have pulled the big bucket wool sequence when he's talking to Stannis's men, and they're talking about like why are you so hell-bent on dying, Wool? I would have loved to see that with Tommy Flanagan and Roddy. And instead, what kind of keeps happening is Roddy, and I think it was kind of a waste of Tommy Flanagan until you get to the Tumbleton battle. He just kind of shows up and just kind of keeps saying the line like, Roddy, what do you want to do? Say the line, Roddy. I want to die. I want to die. I want to die. And it's like, it didn't seem like a good use of his character. And it made Oscar and Black Alley's bloodlust seem unmotivated. That's something that I would love to see. I would have loved to see expanded more, but obviously now Roddy's dead. Rip. Rest in peace, my sweet prince. But it just wasn't there. And I found that that's one thing I think part of it is also colored by my my expectations as a viewer. I was really excited to see the Winter Wolves. That's why I made a whole video about them. I thought they were interesting, and instead it was not up to quality standards, I guess. And this was just like one example. It didn't really seem like they had any personality to them. In the same way that you gave to other characters. Like, they put tons of effort into Gwane and Ormond. I would have liked to see the same effort thrown at Oscar and Roddy. They are a big part of the show, or a big part of the story, especially Oscar. And we don't really got much out of him. So yeah, that was not my favorite. Yay, Riverlands plot. Hang on a second. Oh yeah, Jack D saying Black Alley, big disappointment non-character. Yeah, Black Alley had a line the entire season. She's a pretty important character when we're going to the end of the story, and she didn't really do anything. I felt like that was kind of that was a disappointment as well. I mean, I can understand, like, they didn't cut Bloody Ben, I went back and watched the scene where Will Blackwood was talking about him. Bloody Ben exists. He's just like, they've made him too young to participate in the war at this point. Maybe he shows up next season. Maybe that's when we'll get Bloody Ben Blackwood. But the consolidation of plots here and the consolidation of characters was, when we're talking about Alicent getting lost in the walls and a crazy maid escape sequence, I would have rather seen scenes like that screen time given over to characters like this, who they went out and got great actors for. They went out and they seemingly had a lot of interest in expanding them, and then just kind of didn't put it into the edit, I suppose. Let's check on the chat here. Oh, I missed a lot while I was monologuing. Sorry about the monologue. Although I suppose that's why you're here. You enjoy a good monologue. I think this kind of represented wheel spinning was represented the whole season. I liked it overall, but every plot wasn't Rhaenyra and Alicent. It wasn't Rhaenyra and Alicent. Just felt too sparse for the time it took up. Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. Mistress of Hammers. True Knight Dunk, man of the people, fights where he's right, feels no shame about his love for women. Yes, thank God for sex positive Dunk. Although, well, we'll see what happens with they're going to be more explicit in season 2 with that. I don't know if Alicent needs to have the same conversation with Rhaenyra 3 times. Yeah, Matt David, I would say the same thing with Criston applies to Alicent and Rhaenyra. Just kept spinning the wheel. Execute the story while restore the trope. Okay, I'm gonna push back a little bit here. I do think the show does execute a lot of their story really well, and I think it is still very good TV, but it has left me disappointed at points, and a lot of them were in the second half of the season. Like, if you go back and watch my review of the first 4 episodes, I was singing praises of everything. So it's not that I hated everything I saw. I'm also talking about the things I didn't like particularly much, which is different from my normal videos. Like, nowhere in my video about Roddy the Ruin and the Winter Wolves did I talk about any of this, because obviously it hadn't happened yet, but there's no opinion in that video, really. It's this kind of lore plus speculation, more or less. I agree that Gwane and Ormond, more fleshed out, were a great change, excellent change. Loved Gwane and Ormond. Gwane's the only one that seems sane. Yeah, he's the only one acting like a person. Gwane and Daeron were compelling dynamic. Yeah, we're gonna get to them too. Absolutely. Daeron also was great. Let's see here. Aaron saying, one of my coworkers referenced that video to me, not knowing my connection to the channel. They were like, I was pretty confused, so I saw a video from a YouTuber explaining. When I asked who it was, I think his name was Joe Magic. Nailed it. Got one. Yeah, that's kind of what happens when some of my videos pop off. It's usually, I like to think of how I make them. I was talking to Sanrixian about this today. The general thesis of them is simple question, complicated answer. And I think that one about the Winter Wolves and Roddy and Cregan Stark and the White Walkers and all that stuff, I think that fits right into that really good niche of things show fans would be very confused about, but actually has a surprising amount of depth to it if you want to engage with it, which obviously I did. Although, funny story about that, I don't know if they're going to watch this, but one of my coworkers who got hired a few years back in my day job, we were doing like a Microsoft Teams meeting. We were introducing ourselves, and I say, I introduce myself. I say, hi, I'm Matt. Nice to meet you, that kind of thing. And it doesn't click for them for a few weeks, and eventually they come to me and they say, like, I recognize your voice. I'm like, yeah. They're like, do you do YouTube? I was like, yeah. So, yeah, coworkers being bored at work is the lifeblood of this channel. But yeah, that's a funny story, Aaron. Yeah, yeah, I've heard of Joe Magic. Yeah, I've seen him around. I've talked to him a few times. You know, no big deal. Don't worry about it. Check out the Scarecrows. Gwane the Green Knight. Yeah, the model knight. Although, funny story, Gwane isn't the perfect knight. That's kind of the point of Gwane. Gwane the Arthurian is not actually the perfect knight. He's the perfect knight for how he overcomes his failings. The little caltrops in the Riverlands, foreshadowing. Yeah, I think that's what's happening with Gwane, the caltrops. Works for me because Oscar, those are the traitors to the queen, and it's still in line with the character. The motivate, I would agree that I understand why Oscar is particularly angry at Cole and why they're being so bloodthirsty and why they're going to Tumbleton and stuff like that. But the change in like personality in these battles, it would have been really good to see, because these are Oscar's first battles. These are his first experiences with war. You have a mentor in Roddy right there, somebody that could talk to him about like the battle and like doing campfire stuff afterwards and being kind of this father figure to him after, since we explicitly know he lost his grandfather and his father. So it would make sense for them to have an emotional connection to explain where they're going. It's just, they just didn't do it. So yeah, wasn't super happy about that. Didn't have time for a campfire. We had a lot of time to get lost in them. I can't believe they did that plot. We're gonna get to it, but man, yeah, they really did have Alicent get lost in the walls. Better grasp for the Karstarks in season 3 against. Yeah, I would agree with that, Mark Sutton. They did a lot more for the Karstarks, Rickard Karstark, another Rickard, than they did with Roddy. They gave him quite a lot more. Yeah, I agree, Sane Millennial. It's I think they went after the Hightower plot because they got two great actors in James Norton and Freddie Fox, and they're like, and also Link. They Benjamin Ainsworth something, Daron's actor who's going to be Link in the upcoming movie. They got a great trio there, and they used them. It's just like, you guys also got Tommy Flanagan, but whatever. Missed the video. Oh, could somebody, one of the mods or anybody, grab the video for the Roddy the Ruin Cregan Stark video and drop it in the chat for anybody that hasn't seen it yet? Can go back and watch it after we're done. Want to see Unwind Peak? I don't know if we're getting Unwind Peak. It's another YouTuber that sounds like you, but it's not you because he's not as good. Well, who is as good? Roddy don't care about, he doesn't care about anything. He just wants to die. Hey, Mr. Born Rich. Yeah, Rickard lost his head. Hey, Stephanie Frederick, been a while. We're doing stuff. Let me pull up my outline. Is there anything else I want to say about the Riverlands? Just disappointment. Again, we're saying it for like the 4th time because I am Criston Cole, apparently. Fishfeed and Baela Red Fork. Just didn't do them. Okay. Would have been cool. But they cut the budget and they cut the episode, so I guess that's where it goes. The next one I wanted to talk about was the Velaryons. Corlys, Alyn, and Adam, and then tangentially Baela ends up being a big part of this plot line in a way I didn't really see coming. So Corlys has kind of an odd arc this season, where he was the first not dead fake out they did. They did this 3 times, I think. Tylan, Corlys, and Sunfire all were, as far as the show is concerned, dead. Like, we saw them drown or with Sunfire just not moving. and then all of a sudden they were back. So Corlys had that going for him. So maybe we can understand him as this is an undead Corlys. He's a water wight or something. But I think Corlys, I can understand where they're coming from with what they had him do with the Queen of Bastards and getting Rhaenyra's face and yell at her, because Corlys, after the Battle of the Gullet, he's looking for reward for winning that battle for her, especially now that he sees his likely influence fading. That he had, he knows his fleet is depleted. He knows he's lost his gold. Jace is dead. Luke is dead. Joffrey's now going to be heir. So Corlys is looking around at the ashes of House Velaryon, and he's upset. And so he gets in Rhaenyra's face about legitimizing Adam and Alyn, and freaks out when she doesn't, which I think is pretty understandable reaction. Although I'm not sure why they did that conflict, I guess. Like they're setting up Corlys for things they're going to do next season with him. No specific spoilers on that. So they wanted to create a conflict here to explain where it comes from. But I'm pretty sure in Fire and Blood, Rhaenyra just says, yep, they're legitimate. Congratulations on your new heirs. Because, you know, with Joffrey, Rhaenyra's third son, now to be heir to the Iron Throne with Jace dead, yeah, he has no viable heirs, especially with his brother Vaemond dead. And I think it was really interesting to have the two of them corner each other like this, because they're both feeling, in the aftermath of taking King's Landing, the blood price they have paid for it. Corlys has given up everything he has. He has given up his wife. He has given up his son, his daughter. He has given up his supposed grandchildren, his fleet, his towns, his castles, his wealth. It's all gone. And he just wants this two small things from Rhaenyra. Just legitimize Alyn and Adam. Everyone knows they're his sons, not Laenor's. Didn't even try that one, which I thought was funny. And, you know, he lashes out in the same way that Rhaenyra is lashing out. I thought making them kind of parallel characters here in the blood cost of the Iron Throne, just shouting past each other, a really human and believable moment. Although I didn't quite track Corlys's hissy fit afterwards. Like, I can understand in the moment being really mad about it, him going on a multi-episode like strike, basically, especially when I thought it was really funny when Alyn was like, oh no, she didn't legitimize me after asking once. I wonder what that's like. I was like, yeah, get his ass, Alyn. Your dad sucks. He abandoned you and your brother until you were useful. How is he any different from Rhaenyra? So I thought that was that part of it kind of rung true. That I would say that was good writing, in the sense that Corlys was being unreasonable, and then Alyn comes and basically slaps him around and goes like, Corlys, what are you talking about? Oh my God, she didn't do it immediately. Neither did you. I thought that was fairly good. But again, going back to the Gullet thing, seeing the loss of Corlys's wealth specifically would have helped the scene where he's confronting Rhaenyra, because you as the viewer would have had it in your mind's eye of like, look at all that he has lost. Like, his castle is gone, his wealth is gone, his ships are on the bottom of Blackwater Bay. He is running out of family members fast. Seeing it would have been much stronger than hearing about it. Oh, hey, Kolinsky. Kolnitsky. I think I actually said that one right for once. Was that the one I was asking for a link? Oh, I guess there's not any mods around. Hang on, I'll grab the video for Jack D. You wanted to see the I think I might have links turned off unless you're a mod. Actually, you know what, Viseria? You can be a mod. Congratulations, you've been promoted. I think you have earned it. Oh. See, it appears my screen is frozen again. Ruh-roh. I hope I'm still streaming, because YouTube has frozen on me. Ooh. My chat on OBS is working. Just not the real one. Let me see if I can do that here. Add as moderator. Standard moderator. There you go. Okay. Yeah, YouTube is on my end. The actual screen for the screen for the stream is not working. So I'm gonna go ahead and there's the link in the chat for the Winter Wolves video if you want to check it out. There we go. And I'm gonna try and refresh the screen. Hopefully I didn't destroy it. 1 second, guys. See if I can get it back. Okay, so it's still live. I don't know what happened. Everything just broke. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So I think that was something that people really bumped against with Corlys. And again, I think it's the little things would have helped out a little bit more here, but I think much like Rhaenyra, we're supposed to understand that he's feeling the weight of loss. Like in particular Rhaenys, but the Velaryon family is falling fast. And he just wants this one thing, and Rhaenyra, who's also not in the best state of mind because everything she's gone through, and it's like stress creates conflict. And I think I thought that worked very well. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for confirming I'm still here. On the flip side of good things going on with the Velaryons, okay, so I actually thought Alyn being on the small council was kind of fun because they used him as a way of showing him going like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I don't know how to be at court. I don't know how to rule anything. I don't know how to be hand to the king. And Rhaenyra, in her own way, is kind of like, hey, welcome to the team. I don't really know what I'm doing either. We're going to figure it out, though, until your dad gets back, and hopefully he'll help out. But of course, if you remember going back to season 1 and parts of season 2 of House of the Dragon, it was Rhaenys was doing quite a lot of strategic heavy lifting for Corlys behind the scenes. So not sure Corlys always knew what he was doing either, but he at least was competent and had been a lord for quite some time. But I thought that was fun. The parts of Alyn and Adam that Adam didn't really do a lot this season. He kind of just was the goody dragon rider, I guess. He was actually this is a thing from Fire and Blood where like Adam's supposed to be like the best guy, and he kind of is that too. And in a world of narcissistic screw-ups that is the House of the Dragons, Adam almost comes off as boring for being like good at his job, competent, has a moral compass, understands what he's supposed to do and does it, understands duty. It's like, hey, way to go, Adam. And then but then you have the very odd Baela, Adam, Alyn love triangle that I understood what they were doing with Alyn and Baela. They had that scene of them on the beach after Jace was dead, and he's already kind of like, actually, hang on. Let me change this from Criston Cole. Here we go. And, you know, they have a little bit of a moment, you know, they're family, but they've never really acted like it, that kind of thing. That one kind of came out of nowhere. And I think that was another, like, another moment of, I feel like something got missed here. Like, Alyn's crush on Baela and then Baela kind of returning it. And then the whole thing with Baela and Adam, and they're out flying all the time. And it turns out that Adam's in love with her. And I was just like, I had a little bit of like, did I miss an episode? Like, where did these things come from? I don't remember them. I don't think they ever interacted before. And it was just, I guess they just, all three of them just started off just like hot. I didn't, it all just came out of nowhere. It felt very much like, well, this is where they're going, so we're just going to have them do it now. But rather than being like kind of genuine moments or kind of like light flirtations that kind of rise to something. And I think it was also confusing for Baela because as a character, I'm not sure if we're supposed to understand that she actually has feelings for Adam and Alyn, or if this is just like a grief thing because she's lost Jace, who she was pretty close with, or if we're also supposed to understand that she's doing like political math of like, well, one of these guys is going to be the Lord of Driftmark next, so which one will it be? And maybe playing both of them. It was kind of hard to track what was really going on there because it happened so fast and so suddenly. Ayo, damn right it did. Like, okay, let's do some chat interaction here. Press 1 in the chat if you think that Adam and Baela had hooked up while they were dragon riding and going out like scouting everything. Press 2 if you think they didn't. I think based on what Adam was saying, it seems to me like they did, but there was nothing explicit and Baela was giving him nothing back or very little back. And I was very confused about what that relationship was supposed to be. Hang on a second. It felt like the same thing as Rhaena, where like she apparently saw Adam and Baela and chased them and then got seen, and it's like, I think there's something missing here. To explain what we're seeing. That whole thing definitely needed more. Okay, so it's kind of split. So I would say it was kind of ambiguous what you were supposed to understand about Baela and Adam. Not that I am happy that they were giving Baela something to do as a character other than just kind of shadowing Rhaenyra and being sad with Jace every once in a while and consoling him. Like, it's good they were doing something with her. I just don't know what it was. It kind of came out of nowhere. Marry them both. Hell yeah, Targaryen style, Jack D. That's right. She's the dragon with 3 heads. She gets 2 husbands. Adam and Baela have more chemistry. Yeah, Alyn and Baela didn't have more chemistry, but I think they did hook up. Alyn and Baela did, right? Like, that one came out of nowhere too. It's like they didn't explore Baela enough for me to actually understand what was going on with her. Which is a shame because she's a great character. She's interesting. She's a great dragon rider. She's doing all these adventures, and she just kind of pops in to say, didn't find anything, bye, and then gets hit on by one of the Velaryon boys, who are also her second cousins, I think? Third cousins? Wait, so she's Daemon and Lena's. So I think they're second cousins. If Baela put up for Alyn, makes no sense. She's supposed to be a virgin before marriage. Yeah, who knows? Baela and Rhaena had kind of the same problem where there was like, they sort of remembered they needed to do stuff. I would say though, the part of Alyn as a character that I really was shocked by, even more than his sudden romantic interest for Baela, was the whole thing in episodes 7 and 8 where he was suddenly like, oh no, Corlys is captured. Well, shoot. Sucks to be him. I'm going to be Lord of the Tides now. And it was like, pardon me? I didn't know Alyn was had felt that way. And then he was like, oh, by the way, I'm gonna murder the High Septon for Rhaenyra because she asked me to. And it's like, those were big jumps for Alyn as a character. Uncle and niece. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, uncle and niece. Oh, so it's Daemon. It's Daemon and Rhaenyra all over again. Good call, Katrina. Apparently I can't do family math in my head. The trees are all over the place. But it felt for Alyn. Okay. To be fair to them, they have set up the entire time that Alyn and Corlys are at odds. Adam is much more forgiven. Alyn is really mad at him, and he has been for a long time. So I guess it kind of makes sense for him to be like, yeah, screw that guy. I'm going to be Lord of the Tides now, as kind of like a revenge thing. But it was like, it was weird to see him explicitly not caring that he dies, that he's going to die, and just being like, all right, cool, inheritance time for me. That didn't really track with the character. It seemed a little strange to me. It was a very strong jump right at the end in episode 8, where again it felt like maybe something got cut, maybe something got missed along the way, maybe an edit removes something where it shows that Alyn is actually, because they keep playing up that like he saved Corlys, he went to go save his life at the Gullet, he's fighting for him, he's on the ships, he's doing what he can, even if he's a little bit resentful of it. Him going straight up, I don't care if he dies, seems at odds with him saving him during the Gullet, or trying to. So I'm not sure what to make of Alyn there. Adam just seems like a delight. Way to go, Adam. I guess try and get Baela, although I don't think you're gonna. Lots of gold. And I by far, I would say the strangest part of the Velaryon of the whole thing was Corlys' capture at the end. And then him taking the Tumbleton and like being like this mediator between both sides, and like running into the fire and getting Daemon and getting him out of there. Like, John Roxton apparently is a I don't know how he found Corlys. I don't know how he captured him, how they escaped Tumbleton and came back with nobody noticing. I guess you're supposed to understand that since Ulf is no longer watching, that they could do this, but it's like they're kind of far away, and I don't know, like that whole thing, like the sending back the finger and the signet ring and stuff like that. That felt very odd to me. Especially because none of that happens to Corlys. I don't think he's taken capture and taken the Tumbleton and survived the battle and be this go-between or anything like that. I'm fairly certain none of that happens. Roxton has like, him and his boys jumped on motorcycles and just rolled up and just captured Corlys like it was nothing. While he was explicitly surrounded by his troops after they had just killed a whole bunch of guys, but yeah, whatever. I felt like I was a little shocked when that one happened. I was like, wait, what's going on here? Is that John Roxton? What is he doing here? There he is. There's the big guy. There's Corlys himself. He's kind of all over the place, but I can understand he's having valid crash outs at the current state of his house and how things are going poorly for him. I can certainly understand him being like, oh yeah, maybe I should like do some deals with the Greens, because boy howdy, Rhaenyra ain't making it worth my while. Like, I lost everything. She's not even legitimizing my kids. Like, this all sucks. So again, it's like I kind of understood where they were getting to. How they got there with the surprise kidnapping was kind of really random and odd in a way that because it's not like Corlys was camped outside Tumbleton. He was explicitly going up the coast, I believe. They were hunting pirates. They were going all around Blackwater Bay and rooting out the Triarchy wherever they could. I won't turn down the opportunity, though, to get Stephen Toussaint and James Norton in a conversation. They, of course, nailed the scenes that they were given. I'm just not so sure about why they were written or why they did them that way. Speaking of characters that with kind of dubious parts of the season and not quite sure what they were doing, and the whole plot seeming kind of disjointed and a little bit odd, let's talk about Raina. Oh boy. Let's talk about Rhaena Targaryen, aka the girl in the nettles. Okay. So, I'm of two minds of what they did here with Rhaena and Nettles. Rhaena in Fire and Blood effectively does nothing until after the dance, where she hatches a dragon and then gets married and has some parts to do with what happens after the dance of the dragon ends, and doesn't really do much. So if you're committed to keeping Rhaena as a character, there's not a lot for her to do on screen, especially because the Veil, nothing really happens during this time. Like, the extent of it is literally what we saw, Jane Eyre kind of laughing at Daemon, and that's sort of it. And on the other side of it, you have Nettles. Nettles is the dragon rider in Fire and Blood of Sheepstealer, who she, much like Raina does in the show, she bribes Sheepstealer by feeding him sheep. Actually, Raina doesn't really do that. Sheepstealer just kind of eats sheep and then is like, all right, kid, I'll take care of you. Here, have a sheep. It's okay. It's very different, but the long and the short of it is sheep are involved with taming Sheepstealer. But as a character, Nettles doesn't do a lot. Nettles is more important as a character as what she specifically because she's explicitly a character of color in the book, and also she's a commoner who gets a dragon. Even Adam, who gets a dragon, it's pretty well hinted in Fire and Blood he's Laenor's kid, but far more strongly he's Corlys's kid. So you can be like, okay, well, there's a Targaryen, Valyrian bloodline here to understand why Adam gets a dragon. Nettles is different. Nettles is kind of like sort of like a dream for the reader, in a sense that like anybody could get a dragon if you could make friends with them. But what she does in the story is, so there's two things that happens. One, she's at the Gullet and cries when Jace dies, leading some people to wonder if they had a thing or something like that. And then she doesn't kind of do a lot until there's this whole really odd plot line with Daemon, where Nettles and Daemon kind of run off together, and it causes Rhaenyra to get furious. And there's two stories given for what's happening here. One is Nettles is Daemon's secret lover, and the other one is that she's his secret daughter. Neither one of them are particularly great options. They're not really well motivated, and it's kind of odd. So I can understand what they did, where they're like, well, we want to keep Rhaena. We like the actor. Let's do more with her. So we're going to combine her with this character who doesn't really do a lot, but is a fan favorite in Nettles, and make them the same character. And I'm okay with that as a choice, because as long as they did something good with it. And there were parts of Rhaena's story this season that were really good. Like, for instance, the scene with Daemon and Rhaena, where Rhaena confronts him about being a bad father, and Sheepstealer having her back in the whole cave thing, like, that was great. I loved that. It was well written. It was well acted. Like, Daemon finally is like, oh yeah, I guess I have been a pretty shitty father too. And she's like, yeah. And like, everyone keeps pushing me aside, and I don't have a dragon, and now I do. And I'm trying to find my purpose, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, good. That's great stuff. The bad part is the Gullet, which we talked about this earlier in the stream. This is one of the first things we talked about. I don't know why she's getting blamed for it, other than except by Rhaenyra. I don't know why she's holding this like, I killed Jace. Like, you did not kill Jace. The Triarchy killed Jace, and like, Jace was attacking Sheepstealer anyway. Like, he and Baela explicitly were trying to attack the dragon, and then Sheepstealer was like, I'm not being attacked. So that part wasn't great. And then I would say is also not great was the entire thing that I've brought up a couple times, where she sees Adam and Baela and tries to go after them, and apparently gets caught. And then Jane's like, get out of here. Go on, get. We don't want your kind around here anymore. It's too dangerous. Followed by the Daemon Rhaena confrontation that happens again, and then the 4-way dragon fight. The dragon fight was heartbreaking and extremely cool to watch. The CGI was great. Boy, how did they get there? Make very little sense. Also, I really don't know how Rhaenyra and Adam chased them down. Like, how did they even find them there? I don't really know what was going on there. Like, Daemon goes after them, and like, they said like the general direction Daemon was going, and then Rhaenyra got on Caraxes and Adam, and they tracked her down. It was like, what's happening? How are they getting there? It was an awesome dragon fight. I will not deny that was awesome to watch, although parts of it really made me laugh, like when Daemon got knocked off Caraxes, and Caraxes went like, no, I can't kill Sheepstealer. Daemon got knocked off my back. Are you okay? I don't know. I don't understand where they're going with Rhaena now. And I thought the line that she's like the girl in the nettles or whatever it was, living among the bushes in the nettles, was, I get what they were doing. They're like, aha, so see, it was the secret daughter all along. It was Rhaena. There never was a Nettles. And it's like, I would have rather they just didn't do that at all. I would have been fine. Especially if like maybe Rhaena had taken that name herself instead of it just being like a thing people are calling her. I don't know. The part of it that does work though is that it has Rhaena's story has given her, okay, her being taken back and like thrown into a room and pouting for like 2 episodes was like I'm not quite sure about that. The part of it is working is that it creates a genuine conflict between Rhaenyra and Daemon. That Daemon lied about killing the rider of Sheepstealer and showed off the shepherd's head, and she found out he was lying. And much in the same way Nettles functions in the book, it has now driven a wedge between the two of them. So much so that Rhaenyra instantly goes and, you know, I think goes down on Mysaria, something like that. Where again, the larger plot works and is fine. Like, I understand what they're going through. Good. You want to have the plot where there's a problem with Daemon and Rhaenyra around this character who rides Sheepstealer. They still did that. How they did it is not great. And like, you're just kind of like, okay, just for example, actually in the chat people are saying like, well, it's a small world, like they can like teleporting and stuff like that. A huge part of the season we haven't even talked about yet is that Vhagar is missing. Vhagar's gone. Nobody can find the biggest dragon in the world, and apparently Sheepstealer and Caraxes were hunted down within minutes of landing. Like, those two things don't agree with each other in terms of the what is it the Verilimus, I can't say the word, but I'd have to listen to it again. But basically the believability of what you're seeing. If you're going to tell me Vhagar cannot be found by anybody, and you can track down Sheepstealer and Caraxes incredibly quickly from the Vale to the Riverlands, I think is where they were. That's hard to square. It's not like they have cell phones. Yeah, I don't know. There were high parts of Rhaena's character arc. There were low parts. I think if you're trying to evaluate the quality of her arc for the season, I think it's kind of like, what do you value more? If you really value the Daemon being confronted by Rhaena for being a bad father, and her like finding her dragon, which within the show is code for finding your confidence, finding your purpose, then that stuff works really well. And also the whole plot with Daemon and Rhaenyra fighting over him having split loyalties between like Rhaenyra and New Valyria and Laena and his daughters. Like, that these people still exist and he still cares about them, and that this is a tension between them. But if you care about how you got to those places, then this is kind of a rough plot line, especially if you're somebody that really loves Nettles as a character, which a lot of people do. Like, Nettles is one of the fan favorites from the Dance of the Dragons and Fire and Blood. So I don't blame anybody for being like, this sucks, I didn't like it, like I just wanted Nettles. Okay, we kind of did anyway. Like, she did basically all of Nettles' plot this season, just in different places. But yeah, that was not my favorite. So let's move on to the next one. Alicent and Helena. Alicent let's talk about Alicent, who is on the verge of being nailed by her son multiple times this season, ends up in a silly maid outfit, ends up stuck in a wall, sent to kill that son, and then tries to do it. Chugs moon tea and apparently eviscerates Mysaria's confidence with one conversation, while also outing her own son and trying to kill the other son, Aegon, or at least being okay with him dying. Alicent has had a messy season. She is, whew, she is all, oh, they did everything with Alicent as a character this season. Like, Criston, they had him do the same conversation like 3 times. Alicent, they were just like, Swiss Army knife Alicent. There is no plot she can't be a part of. There is nowhere we won't push her as a character, even if it's literally getting railed by Aemon in a weird dream. Holy hell. And it was a lot of fun. Like, did a lot of it make sense? No. Like, not even a little bit. Rhaenyra being like, I've got a great idea. Why don't you go murder your son on Vhagar? And if you do that, I'll release Helena and Jaehaera. And she's just like, I guess I gotta. Like, holy shit. That was all over the place. Especially when you compare Alicent in Fire and Blood to this version of Alicent. Alicent, I'm pretty sure, is thrown into the Black Cells. None of this happens. She's in jail. In this one, she is Rhaenyra's confidant, her assassin, a very poor escape planner. Let me pull up Alicent, and so we can stop looking at Raina and Adam. There we go. There's our lady. Now, let me show this a little bit better. Yeah, there they are. It is really hard to evaluate Alicent as a character because it felt like there were 6 Alicents this season. She's doing everything and nothing and all of it all at once. It's also really odd how like family destroyer Alicent is this season. Like, she's trying to get all 3 of her sons killed more or less at this point. Outing fake Daeron ensures that Rhaenyra is going to be really angry at real Daeron and maybe try and kill him. She explicitly poisons Aemon and tries to kill him. She tells Rhaenyra, kill Aegon. She is like, I am done with these Targ kids. Get them out of my face. Yeah. And then also Rhaenyra's many conversations with Alicent. I would say that one of Rhaenyra's biggest faults this season was trusting that Alicent was always giving her the truth and good advice. Because this is one of those things that Rhaenyra tends to overlook in characters. Like, Alicent explicitly says, hey, I'm not going to be nice. You cut off my father's head and then step through his blood to take the throne. I'm not happy with you. And Rhaenyra's like, but we're friends. Like, also, you're my captive, so do what I say. And it's like, maybe find a better counselor than Alicent Hightower. I don't know. It was fun. I don't think much of it made a lot of sense. And Alicent was bouncing all over the place all season. I think the worst part of her plot this season, like, not in a not fun and a very bizarre way, was her escape plan. And it's not really about her in particular. It's just like the conversation with Mysaria and the whole thing where they're just like trying to walk through the Red Keep with the little thing, the little cozy on their head or whatever it's called, and just getting caught immediately, and then immediately going like, wait a second, there's a fake wall. Let's try and escape through the walls. It was bizarre and crazy in a way that I wish that time was spent somewhere else. Especially because it seems the point of that at the end of it, and we'll get to Helena, don't you worry. Helena, I have a very different opinion on, but it seems the point of Alicent's whole thing with Mysaria was that she breaks Mysaria's trust in Rhaenyra by basically being like, you know, she still likes Daemon and listens to him. It's like, well, yeah, everyone knows that. She's not going to leave her husband. And also, how do you know that they have this kind of relationship? because you guys have never met, as far as I know. And it really made, I guess you're supposed to understand that Mysaria was already having doubts, and Alicent just kind of saying them is what kind of pushed her, kind of pushed Mysaria too far. But it's also, it seemed like Alicent just kind of vibed her way to being like, I know you're involved with Rhaenyra. You're my romantic rival for my bestie who I propose that we run away and live in the fields and the forests together. And it's like, wait, what's going on? How do you know this? How are you like destroying Mysaria from the inside? I thought she was much more mentally strong than Alicent's like tap dancing to get out of being caught was. I don't know. That was all over the place. I do think that some of their conversations between Alicent and Rhaenyra were really good, and I enjoyed, of course, seeing, you know, the character being portrayed and how Olivia Cook was doing all of this and trying to navigate. I felt like Alicent over and over again this season just did this. Like she was just doing that scene after scene after scene. It was like, oh girl, you are not having a good time. Why did Alicent get a random? Yeah. Why is Alicent 47? I don't know. That was a crazy plot line. I would also say that her focus on Helena alone and being like, actually, you know what? Screw Jaehaera. I don't really care about my granddaughter anyway. She can stay here. If the two of us get out, that's all that matters. But also kind of just me, because I've demonstrated I don't care about the rest of my children, or like I don't care if they die at this point. It's hard to track what her values are unless you're just supposed to understand that she is so panicked to get out of Rhaenyra's grasp in the Red Keep and just get out into the forest and like float in the pond again. Like she'll do anything to get out of there. I don't know. Like literally her taking a hit job on Aemon was I would say the number one craziest thing they did this season. That was bananas. Followed secondly by the whole dream Alicent Aemon scene, like, and followed third by Alicent being kissed by Aemon tenderly. They did a lot of really crazy things with her. But I think this is kind of like, if you want to look back at season 2, Daemon had the same problem as a character. When he goes to Harrenhal, not much happens. If you read Fire and Blood, he joins with the Blackwoods to defeat the Brackens. He rallies the Riverlanders and the lads. They get the Winter Wolves and they start killing people. And that's kind of all that happens. But you can't write off Matt Smith for an entire season. He's one of the headliners of your show. So they went in between the walls, as it were, like Alicent did, and kind of came up with a plot line that kind of exposes who he is as a character, and they continued using it into this season with Alice and her influence on him, and the prophecy and how that's pushing him and Rhaenyra to really dark places. It's like, all right, you used that. I don't know what they're going to use from this season from Alicent going forward. Because it was like she was 5 different characters at once. It was bananas. That's right. Sanry, she's trapped in the walls. Oh my God. Thank God somebody found them. Can I just say, like, I really didn't like the escape plotline, especially because how it ended. It ended with Mysaria just like standing outside the room and going like, I got you. Pew! pew. Officer of my sorry has got you. But then they go into the wall and they make all the way to the secret passage, and it's blocked off. Like, what they should have done to make it feel way more compelling and not like a weird tap dance for Olivia Cook, because you don't want to write her off for the season, so you need her to do things, is they should have had Mysaria let her get almost all the way out and then be there at the secret passage, just being like, with the people that helped her, being like, oh yeah, by the way, everyone who helped you was my servant the whole time. Like, you're not going anywhere, Alicent. Like, go right back. And then they could have actually explored the Jaehaera problem, where with how Helena spent quite a lot of the season being like, I'm not doing anything without Jaehaera. We have to bring Jaehaera if we're escaping. Jaehaera is the most important thing in the world to me. Also my son, now that I'm pregnant. And then when Alicent's like, look, there's a hole in the wall, Helena's like, all right, we're going. It's like, wait, what about Jaehaera? What happened to her? I don't know. They had to have Alicent doing something, and I guess they just didn't want to have her sitting in the black cells the whole season. That doesn't make a lot of these a good idea, I will say. The emotions were fine. And I would say, though, that Alicent as a character, I've said consistently throughout this that, like, where they went to is pretty good, but how they got there is wishy-washy. I would say both were bad. Her ending up at Harrenhal, running away from having to kill Aemond with poison because she was sent on a assassination mission to kill her son, which she went through with. After all this stuff, like, that's bananas in a way that's just like, I can't believe this is happening. So thank God for Olivia Cook for doing her best to salvage the dizzying array of wild scenes they had her do. Yeah. Between two walls. Oh, that'd be a great podcast. Aemon hadn't killed all the innocents. I believe Alicent wouldn't have turned of Aemon. That's a good point. Yeah. Drew off Aegon because of extensive injuries and believed death was better for him. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's good perspectives. Good comment. She did doom Daron, but I guess at that point it's like, oh well. I guess he's gonna be killed. From within a wall, the walls of fanfic. Oh my god, they're like the borrowers. They live in the walls forever, and they sneak out and grab stuff and go back into the secret passages. They live on rats, and they become friends with all the cats. This is the show. This is the show. On a less amusing, because that's how I feel about Alicent this season. It was amusing chaos, saved by Olivia Cook, but it was just bananas all over the place. Helena, I actually really liked what they did with Helena. And I'm going to make a video about this at some point, but I think there's one important thing we have to keep in mind. There was a lot of time in between when George R.R. Martin went on his blog and flamed Ryan Condal for Helena and where Helena ended up this season. I think George initially said that Helena basically dies for no reason, that she jumps kind of unmotivated. And then you look at the season and it's like, I don't know, George. It seems like they gave her a lot of reasons. Like she's tortured by being forced to eat. She doesn't want Maelor to be born into bondage. She doesn't seem a way out. She has these dreams telling her, that's going to be part of the video explaining the dream thing. But more or less the message is, if you escape, like the world is screwed. And it's like she's kind of, you can see that they gave her a lot of reasons for why she pulled a Tommen and just leapt. However, however, it reads like overcorrection. It reads like they were like, oh my God, George is right. We don't have enough. Reshoots. Bring, fire up the word pads. We're adding like 5 more scenes with Helaena and Alicent, and we're going to explain. We're going to lay out just like we did with Rhaenyra. We're not going to Daenerys her. We're going to make sure there's a full plot to it. And it feels a little desperate's the wrong word, but like an overcorrection. But like the whole thing with like, I loved the reveal that she has the whole tapestry, and it's like everything that's happened to the Dance of the Dragon so far. Her being a dragon dreamer was a really cool addition to her character because, as I said earlier on, Helaena, Fire and Blood basically is not a character. She's just kind of there. She exists to have her children's deaths be traumas to her, which then when she eventually kills herself, it reflects poorly on Rhaenyra and et cetera, et cetera. She doesn't really do much. This Helaena they made far more interesting, far more compelling. Also, yes, Fia Saban, great acting job by her. She did an awesome job. But there is a problem that while I think they were overcorrecting a bit from George's feedback and whatever else he told them about like how they were ruining his story and et cetera, et cetera. Visaria in the chat pointed it out. Yeah, what about Jaehaera and Maelor? The prime plot throughout most of the season for Helaena is that she is extremely protective of her daughter. And that's the core conflict she has with Alicent, and calls it out explicitly, where she's like, why did you marry me to my brother? Why did you doom me to this? And you can see that she's, in her mind, she's like, I want to be a mother to Jaehaera and Maelor in a way that Alicent was not to me and my brothers. That we feel abandoned, that we felt used. And Helena's kind of like, I just want to get away from it all and let them have good lives. And then Jaehaera and Maelor basically disappear from the last 2 episodes. After, like, again, during the ridiculous escape scene, she says to her, I will not go if we don't get Jaehaera. And Alicent lies to her and says, we're going to get her along the way. And they have that whole conflict later where she's like, we were never getting Jaehaera, would we? And then she confronts her about like how callous Alicent is being about the sacrifices she's willing to make to get out of the Red Keep. And it's like sacrifices to everyone but her, which Helaena correctly calls her out on. Helaena has that amazing takedown of Rhaenyra in the episode 8 where she just yells at her. And also, again, Maelor is, she will not drink the moon tea, will not have it, because she wants to have her son Maelor, and she doesn't care about anything else. She will starve herself, and she will do anything rather than give up Maelor. That's her son, and she wants him. And then when she jumps, there's nothing about Jaehaera. And I guess at that point, she has just kind of given up on Maelor, that it would be better for Maelor to die with her in suicide than to be born in forever jail, which is what his life would be like, I guess, based on, especially because Rhaenyra amps up her real cruelty towards Helaena, which I'm wondering was a late addition to the scripts. If those scenes are pretty sparse with other characters. It could have been just the 2 of them, but that's just me spitballing about that one. I don't really understand what was going on, why she just like forgot about Jaehaera. It's a pretty big plot hole in her motivation. It's a key part of her plot this season, and then she just disappears. There's no scene of her saying goodbye to Jaehaera. There's no tender moment about like what she thinks about the fact that she's going to leave her daughter. It's just kind of like she knows she has to jump, and then she just kind of does it after fighting it really hard. It's that if that's what George saw, I can understand. Maybe that's like a legacy of what was initially written, because it really doesn't come across what does she think about her daughter as she's doing it. I would say the rest of it was all really strong. Great plot points, really confronts Alicent, confronts Rhaenyra. You're really feeling the walls close in. Hang on, let me pull up Helena. I should probably have Helena on screen while I talk about her. There we go. This scene, remember this one? This was a really nice scene, and it was like a constant thing that Helena is really trying to connect with Jaehaera. If we're supposed to understand that Helena was just having quality time before she knew she would eventually jump, then I guess, but there's no indication that's what was going on. We're just kind of left to be like, wait, yeah, why did Jaehaera not figure into this at all? It's very strange. Yeah, it's a good point, Sammy. They could have put her into the Silent Sisters, or they could have put her into become a Septa. Sure, any of those things would have been fine. And also there's no conversation about Jaehaera between Helena and Rhaenyra, the person that she should be concerned about. I don't know. If the explanation that what Passing Wind has said is the vision is what convinced her to jump, but it's not, or it's not. That's not how it reads in the show. In the show, it reads Mysaria is the one that pushes her over the edge, along with the food torture from Rhaenyra. So it's like, what are you supposed to understand about it? I would say there's almost too much like the justification for why she does it, and not enough paid to the other plot lines that they had her explore. But overall, I thought Helena's story this season was very well done, and I will miss her as a character. I will miss Fia Saban. Also, her ASMR, like going through the Red Keep, was awesome. She was a really interesting character. The Dragon Dreams angle was fascinating. As you can tell, I made multiple videos about it. I kept talking about it. I thought it was great. Yeah. Also, yeah, Chelly B says, are we going to get any more bug allegories? No, we're probably done with the bug allegories. No more bug facts, I guess, for the show. All that whimsy has gone. A shame. Okay, so so we've been going for 3 hours, so we're gonna try to keep rolling a little bit faster. So next part, we're gonna talk about Aegon and Larys. Aegon and Larys, as their whole thing in Rook's Rest, is one of the things that I think the show should be praised for a lot, because Aegon and Larys's plot in Fire and Blood at this point is non-existent. Larys helps Aegon get out of the city, and that's kind of it. We don't know where they go. We don't really know what they're doing. There's none of this like, oh, they get caught by the Triarchy, and oh, they get like, Aegon goes to Rook's Rest and has to like kiss the boot of somebody, and then he murders a guy. And like, this is all brand new. All that dialogue is new. All that character motivation is new. So for all the things I criticized them for, this was great. They did an excellent job with Aegon and Larys. Their whole conversations, the Larys telling him he's a terrible person, the humbling of Aegon followed by the actually, you know what? I'm a bad person, but it doesn't matter because I'm the king anyway. Like that kind of Targaryen arrogance was awesome. It's like it was kind of interesting where he and Rhaenyra both had parallel plot lines this season. They both were broken down and felt at their lowest points in their lives, and both turned to magic and prophecy in order to feed their egos, as being like, you know what, I should just be a dragon. You know, maybe I should just be a bad person because being a good person ain't working. So, but there are problems, and let me pull up those two. One of them is named Tywin Lannister. He is a problem. Where is it? Oh, I think I missed the Larys here. Can I get him in the shot? Kinda. There he is. He's just peeking around. They're kind of doing a Larys thing. So here's what I'll say about so before we get into this, by the way, if you've been watching and you like the you like what we're doing, please drop a like on the stream. It will help me out quite a bit. And if you're first time here, actually, if you're trying to talk and you can't, I have subscriber chat turned on, so you have to subscribe to chat. But also, if you're enjoying the content, subscribe so you can get more of this kind of stuff. During the off season, I'll probably stream more. Nothing like I did during the Quarren streams when I was doing them once a week. I don't think the in-season streams are coming back, but like we can have fun like this. We can just chat, have a good time. Also, I have opened up my Discord for the next 7 days to anyone who wants to join. I'm just gonna drop the link. Actually, Sanri, since you're here, could you drop the link to the Discord? You'll get access to the Discord itself, but just not the patron and the membership stuff, like the behind the scenes stuff, early access, that sort of stuff. But you'll be able to chat with other people and see what's coming up and that kind of thing. So if you could drop the link I sent you earlier in the chat so people can join it. Link's only good for 7 days, so it's not going to be permanent. Just going to do these around streams and stuff like that. Okay. So let's talk about Aegon, Larys, and Tywin. I would say by far the strongest stuff was far and away the humbling of Aegon, and then the kind of the recognition that, you know what, I wasn't being true to myself. I'm actually just a bad person. Maybe I should be it. Now that doesn't mean it's a plot line that we should be happy about. Aegon embracing that actually I'm a shithead and I should act like it is quite poor for the future and what he's going to do to other people. Like, boy, was it cool to watch him and Sunfire roasting people, but he also just murdered like 200 people because he thought it was fun. Not the best, I will say that. Not the best. But it is compelling as a storyline. It's compelling as a self-actualization, as an acceptance of who you are and trying not to pretend to be somebody else. Just maybe there are some people that shouldn't embrace who they really are, and Aegon may be one of them. But a person as cruel and bloodthirsty as he can be is probably not a person that should embrace those feelings. But it does make for great TV. And especially this relationship between him and Larys. In season 2, his relationship to Larys was interesting, I would say. Kind of fun. but it read more as Larys being kind of opportunistic, that he was trying to get control of Aegon in order to pry him away from Otto, in order to secure his place at court. I guess it was kind of hard to read. In this one, it's much more explicit that the devotion Larys feels is a lot more genuine, because you're seeing how far he is going for him. Like, they walk all the way to Rook's Rest, and Larys cannot walk super well. He has the club foot. They harvest, like, what is it? They harvest human waste in order to process into other stuff. They live as commoners. They escape from a fight together. At all these points, Larys has a decision point of just turning over Aegon and just getting out scot-free, the same as he did to Otto. He could give him up and he would be welcomed back by Rhaenyra with open arms. He is choosing not to. And it feels a lot less self-serving and a lot more like he's doing something. Like, this is now a cause he really believes in, pushing Aegon forward. And I find that at least some clarity on who Larys is as a person far more interesting than whatever he was doing with Otto, and like and then he like tried to be like, Aemon, by the way, aren't I a cool master of whispers? And Aegon's like, you're a toad, I hate you, get away from me. This was him picking a side, kind of like he did to Alicent, like he did in season 1. There are, unfortunately, more of these, I need a better term for it, but like connective tissue, like frayed plotline kind of things that really ground at me. Oh, thank you, Visaria, for doing that. Yeah, links in the chat if you guys want to join the Discord. And if you're watching this back, link is in the description as well. 7 days after this is published, after this stream ends, which who knows when it will end, maybe it'll go forever. Yeah, you can join the Discord and hang out, and we're going to do more things during the off season. I'm going to put a lot more effort into it. I kind of let it die by not making YouTube videos for 2 years. So that is my fault, and I'm going to fix it. Anyway, so number 1 is the guy right here in the background, right down here, Mr. Tywin Lannister, the guy I made a video about, the where's the gold, where did Tywin hide it? Tywin literally just comes back to life from nowhere. I understand what they were doing. It was an obvious reference to Jaime when he fell into the water during the battle of the loot train, and he just kind of like Bronn saved him, and it like doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I went back and watched it, and you saw Tywin and the other Lannister men get shoved by Sharako and the rest of the Triarchy, and they just sink. And Tywin shows up here at Rook's Rest to find Aegon and Larys in a way that is extremely jarring. In a way that feels not great, a way that feels kind of lazy, in a way that feels like there's some cut scenes explaining where he's been all this time and why he's not dead. Or like, maybe they didn't really think about the consequences of, like, maybe they did a test viewing of the Gullet scene where Tywin gets shoved into the water and people went like, oh, he's dead. And they were like, oh no, they think he's dead. Oh shit. Well, we don't have time to fix it. I guess he's just alive now. That was bananas. Completely unmotivated how he survived, how he came back. They don't even try to give an explanation. I would say maybe the worst example of that kind of thing they did this season is Tywin's survival. He survives because he has to, because he has a big part in Fire and Blood and the future plotline, so they had to fake it, which made it really weird, because when show fans saw him come back from the dead, they were just like, wait, how did he do that? And book fans were watching the entire time just going, okay, well, he can't be dead. Tywin has a lot more to do, so what are they doing? And just kind of waiting for the explanation that never came. It was not great, to put it mildly. And I made fun of this on my YouTube posts, the somehow Sunfire has returned. Sunfire, they did the same thing with. Tylan and Sunfire got the same plot, where to show viewers, even though Aegon was like, he's alive, I can tell he's alive, the visuals of what they showed was Sunfire not moving for weeks or months. No food, no water, like visible gore, flies eating at him, people setting up a camp around his corpse because they're so sure he's dead. And then in a moment of great need, Sunfire just kind of like gets up and goes to help Aegon. How did that happen? Why did that happen? I watched the behind the scenes and like I read interviews about it and they had no explanation. It was basically they wanted to set up this plot for Aegon about his rebirth, his reincarnation of like he came back to life. And so they did the same thing with Sunfire just to bring him back at the same time. Which is strange because again, like Tylan, book fans knew that Sunfire, this never happened. Sunfire is injured, but nobody ever thinks he's dead. He's like the Mutant Men, he like moves into a cave and they're trying to kill him, but it doesn't work. Ends up killing a bunch of them. So it's a twist that doesn't make a lot of sense, especially because the same plot would have worked if they showed Sunfire just really injured and laboring to do anything. Like especially like emotionally, if you had showed Aegon, Sunfire being like upset it was abandoned by Aegon. Like that's how it felt. And then and I actually went back and checked. The scene with the Mutants is actually really close to where Sunfire is, but because of the way they're just like wandering through the woods, it doesn't feel like it. Like the Raven card is really close by. It's there's a way to do it that you don't have to make up this whole like, oh, well, when they got really close together, it healed both of them. And then in his time of greatest need, he summons Sunfire back from whatever sort of coma he's in. Like, these aren't things in the books. You don't have to do this. It could very easily be a thing where the emotional connection inspires Sunfire who is struggling to do more than it could have. Like for instance, we've all heard stories about like a kid gets trapped under a car and a parent lifts it at great personal cost because they care about them, because the adrenaline gets going. Like that's a plot line that works perfectly well for what they wanted to show. This whole Sunfire is in this like weird sleep thing because he was really injured and then like magically healed because Aegon shouted he's the king. Like it's unmotivated and bizarre within the story. It works for the plot they are telling. The plot they are telling that Aegon and Sunfire have this, like Aegon believes now in the prophecy and that he's like the chosen one, that he's gonna be he's been declared dead and now he's back to life, and they did the same thing with Sunfire. Like those all agree with each other, and if you just want those, it's fine. But like the whole Sunfire fake out, like I made the post and I got a ton of comments of people like pitching ideas for how it could work. That's a sign to me that they did a bad job with that plot line, because it's extremely possible to do that plot line where nobody's confused and people aren't pitching ideas for why it works and still have the emotional beats. So I didn't like it. I felt the same as Thailand, where they needed Sunfire to be alive again, so it just was. Yeah, and again, like it's a fantasy aspect of the dragons that is not really a thing. There's kind of like, there's this idea that when Targaryens get sick, they're like, oh, bring them their dragon, bring them a dragon egg and something like that. And like maybe there's some kind of like blood magic connection, but nothing on this scale where a dragon that has not moved in presumably months just gets up. That's crazy. um the magical bond they have is nothing like that. So I think it was quite silly. I think it was quite silly to create a plot that book fans knew couldn't be true and then confuse show fans. Like you didn't have to do it. It would have been totally fine to do it the other way with Sunfire really injured but summoning the strength in time of need. That would have worked extremely well without this nonsense. I understand it works for some people that like dragons are so magical that they can understand it and it makes sense to them. I'm not one of those people. I thought it was crazy. Much more like Thailand than anything cool, I guess. Oh, the other part here is I kind of talked about this with Larys. Him being his role being drastically changed and reduced. What we got this season with him and Aegon was good, but you'll notice that like there's quite a lot of things that have changed about him. Yeah, this area. Apparently Dany only had to wish the dragons back to health. Like just get close and touch them and the dragons would have leapt back to life. Apparently that's how it works. According to Aegon and Sunfire. Oh, okay. I'm going to go back to this just for a second because it's still on my mind and I'm probably going to make a video about this. Aegon and Sunfire within that plot line are given the most dragon connection there ever has been. That Sunfire is effectively on the brink of death for months and gets back up and can kill people and fly because Aegon wills it so. The problem is that relationship is nowhere in the show. They have the scene where he and Sunfire nuzzle each other, and then they go to Rook's Rest, and Sunfire gets destroyed by Vhagar. And that is the sum total of the relationship between these dragons. If you're looking for characters who have a lot of screen time, emotional connection, and control over their dragons, you're looking at Daemon and Caraxes. Those are the two I would expect something like this to happen to because we see that they are together all the time. Aegon and Sunfire in the show do not have this connection, this deep emotional connection that exploits the dragon bond to heal Sunfire with his love. It's not a thing in the show. It's really not a thing in Fire and Blood either. It's why Sunfire never does this fake death thing. He just goes and Aegon goes and finds Sunfire and then they go and do other stuff. So it's unmotivated for the characters. It's unmotivated for what they have previously shown as their relationship. Like Aegon and Sunfire nuzzling is a sweet scene, but that is not the only time that has happened. They are not the only dragon and rider that show affection. Most of them do. So yeah, I didn't care for it. I don't really like the implication too that we're supposed to understand that this is the strongest dragon bond out of all the Targaryens to their dragons. It's like, really? Why? Like, where did this come from? Especially because Aegon's not even like a dragon dreamer, as far as we know. They tried to play some of the manning up at the point of death. Yeah, I guess so. I think your opinion's a bit off. I mean, I don't think it's off. It worked for you in a way it doesn't for me. We have different expectations from what the show is giving us, and that's totally fine. Yeah, no. There's nothing in the books, nothing in any of the um anything like this. But anyway. Oh yeah, so Larys. So he has changed drastically as a character since season 1. For instance, I guess I said this when we were playing a game the other day. I guess Larys is just no longer into feet and no longer kind of like a foot pervert and no longer like uses sexual threats or uses threats of outing people and all that kind of stuff to get what he wants. And then the whole thing with Alicent, that's all gone. They also, I I think they reduced his plot a lot. I think the thing with him and Otto and him with the agents that he left behind in King's Landing, I think got axed for Ormond. He's also just not a very good master of whispers in the show. The main thing he does is he gets Aegon out of King's Landing. They imply a lot of things about him, but he doesn't seem to do much. Mysaria kind of has the same problem where they're supposed to be like these scheming puppet masters that are controlling things from afar and have, you know, their fingers in a lot of pies and they're working at everything. And that's just kind of gone here. We get no sense that he's communicating back to King's Landing anymore, what he told his agents to do, if they're actually doing anything, what's really going on. Like that stuff that seems to be all gone. He's a very, very different character. I wonder if it was like Matthew Needham like asking for more stuff to do as a character, which they gave him. Like what they replaced that stuff with here is very good. I love the Aegon Larys relationship, but he feels like he's a different character now. Now, if you wanted to be fair to what the writing is doing with him, I think you could make the explanation that Larys has had kind of like an epiphany, and his time on the road with Aegon has changed him as a person, and he's finding loyalty he never had before. Like, but it's hard to see the loyalty he's showing to Aegon with the guy that annihilated his family in fire. Like maybe they have like a kindred spirit between them that like Larys recognizes, oh look, another horrible person. Finally I found somebody like me. This is my guy. Perhaps that's kind of what's going on here, but he's acting very, very differently. His competencies seem different. Even his role as Master of Whispers, his perverted nature, his murderous nature, they all seem kind of they just seem kind of worn away, which is an unusual thing to do in the show. He's the kind of character you would expect them to keep pushing the envelope with, that he would keep doing more and more extreme things, because that's kind of what he does. Like, remember in season 1 where he's like, I can go get an eye for you if you want it. It's like that guy to season 3 Larys is almost kind of unrecognizable. Not Hannah says, I feel like the show is constantly explaining itself in the inside the episodes. Like, here's what this means and why it makes sense, but what I'm watching should tell me that stuff. I think that's a fair point. That's kind of when I'm kind of circling around a lot, is that there's a lot of stuff that you need to make up headcanons for. There's a lot of stuff you sort of need to assume happened, and you need like Ryan Condal going on a podcast to understand it. And that's a sign of later seasons of Game of Thrones. Like that happened a lot. They relied on the after the episodes a huge amount during the end parts of that show. And it feels like we're kind of getting there too, where they don't have time for everything and they're kind of just, you figure it out. And it's like, it's your show. How about you tell me? But yeah, I'm kind of disappointed a little bit in that aspect of Larys going away. They also, I mean, I made the Larys strong, green seer, rat theories and all that stuff. So it's entirely possible that I misread what they were doing at the time, and that they were just kind of playing with playing with that stuff and not really intending to do anything with it, because it seems like they shoved all of that onto Alice Rivers. They have made her a much more powerful magical character than she ever is in Fire and Blood. Like giving prophecies and having dragon eggs. We'll get to her in a little bit. They might have just course corrected on Larys away from all that, but it seems like they've made him a less interesting character. Emotionally, he's far more interesting, his relationship to Aegon and these conversations and their journeys, but it seems to be at the expense of who the character they described in seasons 1 and 2, which, depending on what you think of Larys, could be a bad thing or a good thing. And again, to say it again, I think, again, this is a byproduct of getting James Norton to do Ormond, which Condal said explicitly they basically rewrote the character and parts of the season around, because they're like, well, we got this amazing actor, we're going to do a lot more with him. So they took stuff from Larys, gave it to him, and they kind of bumped up the minutes on this whole Rook's Rest Forest stuff. Sometimes, which again, I'm not upset about. It was really good. It just feels different. Like, it feels like this may have been Tywin and Aegon's plot, and then Larys got kind of shoved in. Because it makes a lot of sense for Tywin, especially with where they left him off after the Gullet, that he finds Aegon and the two of them do this all together, right? Doesn't it feel like this should just be Tywin and Aegon? But then it's Larys, because they cut a lot of the stuff he was gonna be doing. But that's not like explicit anywhere. That's just me kind of reading between the lines and stuff like that. So might not be true at all. Let's go to. Okay. Let me go back to Sunfire and Aegon real fast. The scene itself is awesome. Him and Sunfire laughing together, which was kind of cringe, but also kind of amazing. The whole him like reaching out and Sunfire breathing fire like it's him doing it and attacking the Mootons and Tywin standing by him. Cool scene. Really enjoyed it. Again, my problem is how they got there. I didn't like how they got there. So let's talk about Alice and Aemond. So this one, they did a lot with Alice, and I have a whole video that I'm gonna make, and my next video, I have it outlined. I have it mostly written. I'm going to be recording it in the next few days, talking about Alice's backstory as Black Heron. But I think the part about her and Aemond is this is another one of those plots where they did a lot of synthesis. They did a lot of adding stuff there that's not in Fire and Blood. They've explicitly done the Daemon plot with Alice again. The thing I found really funny about it, and I'm sure some of you did too, I guess they heard the fans being upset about the extended weird dream sequences. So all that's still happening. Alice is still reading his dreams, knowing what he's dreaming about, and then manipulating him in real life and probably sending him dreams. Like, for instance, that she makes Aemond think that she's Alicent so that they can bone, which is a thing they did. But yeah, it was funny, the course correction there. They were like, we can't do that again. We can't do 6 episodes of Daemon dream sequences, so we're going to do other stuff. I would say my heart goes out to my boy Simon Strong and his 2 unnamed sons. Sweet Prince, we will miss you every day. Simon, you were the best of them all. You didn't deserve to be murdered by Aemond while you were trying to grovel to your new king. Bless your heart. We will miss you. Let's get some ones in the chat for Simon Strong. He left us too young, even though he was quite old. He was the best. Thank you, Simon, for your service. The that's where it started off with. We got the end point of the Alice and Daemon relationship, where Alice basically demands Harrenhal. I made a video about this earlier this season, where he's like, what were you even doing last season to me? Like, oh, F's in chat. I'm sorry, F's in chat for Simon Strong. Thank you, Sanri. You're right. F's in chat for Simon. Why did I say one? It's like I don't even watch Twitch and YouTube. They try to wrap it up, and she's like, I actually want Harrenhal. And Daemon's like, what? And she's like, yeah, give me Harrenhal. And he's like, that doesn't really explain what you were doing. And she's like, don't think about it. Give me Harrenhal. And he's like, I can't do that. We'll do something else. And then does nothing, which, way to go, Daemon, on that one. And actually, Rhaenyra explicitly screws Alice later by giving it to the Freys. So the main things that happen here, and I think we'll start with the highlights of it. I thought the idea that she has Dreamfire's eggs was really cool. I thought that was a great inclusion. I think it kind of explains what's going on with Helena, why she seems to have this really, really strong... Let me change the photo so we're not looking at Thailand anymore. Good God, I am bad at streaming. Where are you at, Alice? There we go. Let's get some Alice and Aemond on the screen. Let's get some love to the Aemond enjoyers in the chat. So okay. So the good part about it is the eggs. It's one of those things that you could definitely fit into Fire and Blood and not really change anything, because Dreamfire, Helena's dragon, and the Queen in the West and the Queen in the East, Raina, before her, laid tons of eggs. So many eggs. It was overflowing with eggs. Dreamfire could not stop laying eggs. And Dreamfire and Rhaena spent the last several decades of Rhaena's life, I believe, at Harrenhal with, like, apparently Alice Rivers and one other guy. I think it was Maegor Towers or something like that. So Dreamfire was there for a long time. Harrenhal is very much not a place anyone goes. So the idea that there were eggs left behind and Alice snatched them, I think was a really cool idea. I was like, oh, yeah, that's fun. I like that idea. And there's also, like, rumors in Fire and Blood that Alice hatches a dragon. It's like, where the hell did she get a dragon egg? It's like, they're Dreamfires. Okay, cool. That's a good inclusion. I enjoyed the continuing Alice glow up, where she's like, I'm a humble healer. Don't worry about me. I'm kind of like the maester of this place, to I am the Witch Queen of Harrenhal. I can summon bats. And wah, get out of here. You get out of here. It's like they were like, what if we made Alice like pretty much a witch in season 2? What if we go crazy with it? I was like, sign me up for the Alice Rivers crazy train. I'm on board for this one. She really did a number on Aemond. She kept him hostage. She pretended to be his mother in order to try to have a child. She has dragon eggs out of nowhere. She says she's Black Heron's wife. All this kind of crazy, crazy stuff. It's kind of like they did to her what they kind of did to Alicent, where it was like, what if we just had her do the most? What if we did maximum Alice? And that's kind of the season. And as an Alice enjoyer, that was fun. Also, I guess she was hiding these clothes the whole time. So that kind of makes the point that she was pretending to just be like a humble healer the whole time. And then somewhere in a closet, she had all these fabulous gowns left behind, because I don't remember seeing a Mrs. Simon Strong or a son or a wife for any of those dudes, so I don't know where she got these from. I guess she's just been holding on to them and refusing to wear them so she wouldn't stand out. Um, Craziness. I'm gonna make a whole video about the whole Black Heron thing, and sneak peek, I think she's maybe lying about that. And Ryan Condal and some of the other producers and writers are kind of hinting the same way, but this is going to be like a 30-minute video, so we'll go into it there. Just make sure to subscribe and put on notifications, and also join the Discord, which Sanri put in the chat. You can, if you want to not rely on the YouTube algorithm, join the Discord is a great way to get notified about things that don't rely on algorithms. It will just be there, and you can just use it to find all the Joe Magician content you want. So that stuff was a lot of fun. I also, although the Alicent going there plot was insane, I did kind of enjoy the whole, like, her fighting with Alicent for control of Aemond and being like, I know you're here to kill him. And by the way, for the clever viewer, how does she know that Alicent's here to kill him? It's because she's a green seer. It's because she can see prophecies. She knows things she can't. It's another whole thing. This is just another example that they explicitly are making Alice like a Bran or like a Blood Raven kind of figure. She knows things she cannot know. So that that whole thing, that was kind of fun. I also loved when Aemond collapsed after Alicent poisons him, and she just like rolls her eyes and goes, idiot, which I think might be the first genuine moment we see from Alice in any season so far. There was nobody around to see that. That was just her genuine reaction, and she just kind of rolled her eyes and was like, what an idiot, what a moron this kid is. Oh, in the chat, Sammy says Eggs just calling Aemond enjoyers aimless. Clever. Way to go, Egg. You nailed that one. What was that? Hang on. There we go. I actually did that. Hey, thank you. Welcome, Defish. Glad I can make it to the stream. Love your videos, sir. Thank you very much. Glad you enjoy them. Symmetry Loud. Hi, Joe. I'm way behind on the stream by watching from San Francisco. Cheers. Cheers to you as well. We worked Simon's wardrobe. There's a theory. There's a video I should make. Alice is dressing well because these are Simon's clothes. That's a good one. She really did a number on Aemond here this season. However, are you ready for the parts I didn't like? And is it the same kind of things again? You bet your ass it is. So what didn't I like about this? I thought kind of the very like Alice throwing a rock to summon bats was so over the top that I was like, is she skin changing all of them, or does she just have the mystical ability to throw a rock and summon bats on command? Like what is she doing here? Is this like Bran with the ravens? If it's that, it's fun. If it's just her throwing a rock and like spooking people away, then I'm not quite sure about that. I would say one of my biggest problems with the Aemond Alice whole thing was the captivity followed by him killing the guys sequence. It had the same sort of problems, and actually was the same director for that episode. I think it was episode 5 and 7. I really did not like the directing and writing on those, and there was the same pair each time. It was like an executive producer and a new director to the show. So 4 guys scale the cliff to get to Harrenhal's Godwood, which I don't think I realized was a cliff, but if it is, okay, sure, whatever. They show up, and Alice has explicitly been like, Aemond, you're locked in here. You can't leave. You can go up to this balcony and come back, and that's kind of it. I have barred the doors. No one can get in. You can't get out. And also, we know that the distance between the Godswood and Daemon's room she was staying in was actually quite far away, because they make it seem like Harrenhal's like a small hovel, like a small pile of rocks that like have a few mazes to it. Whereas in my Harrenhal video, if somebody could grab the link for that one, if you could, the Harrenhal is cursed one. Harrenhal is 4 times the size of Winterfell. So the idea that Alice is getting accosted by 4 guys in the Godswood, and Aemond, who is so weak he's struggling to walk and explicitly barred in his room, hears it and then runs out with Blackfire and just starts chopping people to death, is one of those things that makes me go like, when you made this scene, did you really think about how big this place is and where the physical locations are? Because this feels silly as hell. And I think the thing that really like threw me off about it was after Aemond kills everybody, which was a fine fight. Way to go, Aemond. You murdered some more people. Huzzah. Alice has this really bad line where she says, well, I guess you're feeling better. It's like, is this a buddy cop movie? Like, what are we doing? Why did Alice say that? That's a really bad line. And it's like going for a joke, like an ironic joke after Aemond just killed 4 guys. And it's like, I didn't like that part at all. I thought that whole sequence was kind of ridiculous. I get what it was doing for the plot. They wanted to, Alice was manipulating Aemond, and she put herself in danger explicitly so that he would save her, so that she would exploit the whole mother-son relationship she was previously talking about, and she spends the rest of the season trying to foster. That she's trying to step in as, look, it's me, your mommy. Please don't clip that. I know Sanri already did. Sanri and Egg have already clipped that line. Why did I even say that while you guys were watching? Crazy. I look forward to hearing it on your stream. Anyway, yeah, so that's what she's doing. She's trying to replace Alicent, who she knows for some reason Aemond has a thing for. Duh, it's because she's reading his dreams the same way she did to Daemon, and she's using it to manipulate him. That doesn't make that sequence good. Okay? It's the same kind of problems. Actually, not Hannah in the chat. Harrenhal is as big or as small as they need it to be for each scene and story. Right. Harrenhal is massive, but they make it the way the geography and like how sound works. Apparently Daemon's room is like 10 feet away, and Aemond just like busted out of it to go get his lady. I understand what they're doing. It's showing devotion. It's showing that it's working. It's a stupid scene. And there were some others like that. I don't know what's going on with Vhagar. Why they've now made the claim towards the end of the season that Vhagar has abandoned Aemond. I don't know why that happened. They haven't really said. I mean, is it like Alice, like Daemon had no problem with Caraxes? Why is Aemond having problems with Vhagar? And Vhagar's just going around not killing people, but just like stealing sheep. Which, by the way, is if you're a show watcher, this is totally different. In Fire and Blood, Aemond and Alice like gleefully go around burning villages. And like, she's like, burn that village. And Aemond's like, you got it, my witch queen, and burns down whatever she says. That's the impression you get. This is very, very different. I don't really know what they're doing, why Vhagar's gone. It's a good mystery. I'm excited to learn why, because it seems to be something personal. I'm not really sure what's going on. I don't know, Sandry. Is she doing something to keep Vhagar away? Is there a way to keep Vhagar away? Do you just like, is there like a spray for it? Dragon be gone? Is it like the stuff you use on deer where like you spray like stuff that smells like fox and wolf piss and it keeps away and like rodents you don't like? I don't know. Yeah. I don't quite get that, but not getting something doesn't mean it's bad. I want to know why, where we're going with this. This is all, of course, colored by the fact that the Alicent murder plot is nuts. And I don't know. Alicent found the dragon when she opened the door in the courtyard. If that's true, if Vhagar is just behind a closet door, I will be furious. Also, I should mention that Criston Cole comes to Harrenhal and then leaves quite quickly. He doesn't really do anything. Alice just kind of goes like, "You're not Aemon, get out. I only want Aemon." And that's kind of where that scene starts and ends. The Harrenhal thing. So this is something I'm going to mention in my video that I think is really funny. If you go back and listen to the House of R podcast, again with Mallory Rubin and Joanna Robinson, Ryan Condal says pretty distinctly that Gail Rankin was not supposed to tell anybody her character was really old. And it's a constant problem with new actors to the show. Like we saw that with Dexter Sol Ansel, where he told everybody in the world that Dunk survived Summerhall, and Peter Claffey goes, "Shit. Oh no. Don't tell people that. Egg, why would you do this to me? Oh no." I'm making really clippable moments this stream. You're welcome, you guys, for when you eventually put it on a soundboard. So that was fun that Gail said it by accident because she's not used to the level of scrutiny Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon comes with. So she gave stuff away that she didn't realize was plot sensitive. Now she does. Most of them learned that the hard way. Like Matthew, God, what's his name? Matthew Needham learned that the hard way, I think, when he went to the House of the Dragon Game of Thrones convention, and he got asked by Kim Renfro about the rats, and he went like, "I don't know." And then when he saw the rats in the front row, he's like, "My people, you guys are here for me. You guys understand." He was having a lot of fun with Larys and the rats until he wasn't, and I think he got a talking to. Same as Gale and probably Dexter. So that's a thing that'll be in my video. I thought that was pretty funny, pretty amusing. One other thing about it is it makes sense within Fire and Blood. Alice is explicitly shown to be too old. She's like not aging for some reason and nobody knows why, and she has some magical stuff, so it's like she could be anybody. I've seen like I explicitly do not have who is an Alice, what is her real identity, because there wasn't enough to go on. Like you could have been like, oh, she's Shara the Witch Queen, or oh, she's Melisandre, or she could be there's a green seer lady from the Rainwood that has to do with owls. It could have been her because she has something to do with owls. I think the true answer is they didn't know at the time, and Ryan Condal basically says that in between seasons 2 and 3, they were like, we should come up with an identity, and they're like, Black Heron's wife. Which, fine. I'm going to explore this a lot more in that video, as I've said like 5 times. So I have an idea. But she could be kind of anybody. So Black Heron's wife, fine. It doesn't explain why she's so long-lived. Like Bloodraven is really long-lived because he's plugged into the Weirwoods. The Undying of Karth are so old because they consume the life force of young magical people like Daenerys, and that keeps them alive as whatever they are. I don't know. but it's fun. I think it's a cool idea, and you can, if you go back and look at it, there's a lot of little hints that she has a lot more connection to Harrenhal and Black Heron than initially you would think. I don't know. I don't know what the owls are about. They haven't explained the owls. I don't know why she has owls. There's no like real house that has anything to do with owls that's anywhere near the Riverlands, but she's an owl in human form, so we will figure it out. So yeah, Alice is fun. I'm gonna do a Helena video, and I like the idea that the eggs, Dreamfire's eggs, are what's creating this connection between Helena, Alice, and whatever's going on at Harrenhal. Because if you'll notice, Helena knows some stuff going on around her, but man, does she know everything going on at Harrenhal. That seems weird. And there's that line she gives about she doesn't like riding Dreamfire because it's too much when she does, implying the closer she gets to the dragon, the closer her dreams become. So I think that's kind of what they're going for there. That's kind of a clever magical thing they could do, that the dreams do seem to come from the dragons to begin with. Maybe the eggs have the same kind of connection. Certainly Dany can see the eggs. She can see Drogon before Drogon is born, which is like a really strange thing. So I think they're kind of drawing on that. That's kind of a fun connection. Oh boy. Boy, we've been going for a while. So our last topic here, we're going to talk about Tumbleton. So the main thing here is that Tumbleton in the books, the backdrop to it is vastly different. As I've said numerous times, James Norton and Freddie Fox and Benjamin Ainsworth, whatever his name is. It's something Ainsworth. The reason they did so much with those characters is because they unexpectedly got really good actors that they didn't expect to get for those roles, in particular James Norton. So Ormond, who is basically a non-character that gets embarrassed and dies relatively quickly within Fire and Blood after getting attacked by every Reach Lord that he passes, becomes like the Tywin of the season. He becomes like the big bad. And I think the exploration of him as a character, his little character quirks, kind of this boiling rage underneath with this very proper veneer, the idea that like smells are a thing that gets to him, like it's a weakness in him as a character that's not like a character flaw. It's just like an odd tick he has, which I found super interesting. And also his relationship to Daeron. Daeron is also kind of not a character in Fire and Blood. He does a few things. He's Daeron the Daring. And this is a very, very different portrayal of that character. And they actually become people. They become, I would say, Tumbleton, Ormond, Daeron, Gwane, and I would say Ulf are highlights of this season. Like if you're looking for something that was not in the books that they invented and is really good, I present the Tumbleton plot. It was great. Okay. Except for the strangeness of John Roxton, who's kind of just like Robert Strong. He's just like, he doesn't do much. He just kind of has a bowl cut and he kicks Daemon's ass. It's like, all right, way to go, John Roxton. You are kicking people's asses left and right. Way to go on that one. I would say the whole thing that Daeron, there was the thing in season 2 where Gwane was like, well, Daeron's kind, he's a good kid, and then you see him murder somebody under Ormond's direction to see if he would actually do it. Creates this very interesting character who he's kind of like this broken dragon figure where at any time he has a dragon, he can just fly away, he can leave them all behind, but Ormond has used the same kind of emotional manipulation that Alicent would hope that her son would get away from by being away from the capital. Whoops, Ormond did the same thing because the High Towers turn their children into weapons. Like that's kind of their family motto. Have a child, make them into a tool for you. They seem to do that over and over and over again. Part of the reason why they've lasted so long. They don't really get to be well adjusted. And that's sort of on purpose, as we've seen, even going back to Ormond's father, who, when Otto is talking to him, he's just like, by the way, you're going to get that kid on the Iron Throne, and I don't care how you do it. Good luck. Bye. Get fucked. It was also kind of like this lovely monsters moment for Ormond where he saves Kat's brother after the soldiers try to brutalize him, and he dispenses justice, and he's like, oh yeah, Daeron, kill this guy. Why? Because you can. Because it's important you learn how to kill, as well as like how to do what I tell you to get the things that we need to, which are like immoral, because what we're doing is immoral. It's a war. This all sucks. Like, you being on the throne will cost thousands of lives, and this guy is the symbol of that. Are you willing to do it? It's like, that's a really good scene. As well as Gwane and Daeron's relationship, those two like being each other's anchor or their buoys within the High Tower insanity, the way that they're both like trying to escape it in their own ways. Gwane being like the guardian angel for Daeron was really great. I love the acting. I love the plot lines. It's a very, these relationships are all dynamic and changing, and in a way that I found very compelling, especially that like when the Baratheon soldiers attack, Gwane's been kind of portrayed most of these 2 seasons as he doesn't do a lot, right? He just kind of complains. He wants to go to an inn. He's not really great at fighting. He's kind of preachy and holier than thou. And even though he's been a great character and been portrayed really well, it's like, what's Gwane good at? And then you see in this moment, after traveling with Criston and doing this guerrilla warfare, that he has become a far more capable character than he ever was before. He was kind of, I would call it like a country sort of like dandy figure, I guess. When he first shows up, he's no longer that. He recognizes the fake Baratheons and attacks them without hesitation, knowing that they're there to kill Daeron. Although I'm sure he would have let him kill Ormond, but he can't let them get Daeron, who's very protective of. I love that. Ormond was a perfect monster. I loved his manipulation of Ulf. Also, Ulf highlighted the season. Tom Bennett having a lot of fun with it. Him at the Battle of Tumbleton being a drunken, chaotic mess is like, way to go, Ulf. You finally become a Targaryen. I will change the picture now because we're no longer talking about Alice and Aemond. Oh my god. There we go. These guys right here, they're great. Well, one of them sucks, but the other two are pretty great. Sort of. Daeron did murder a guy in cold blood, but he was manipulated to do it. Yeah, Ulf being Ulf was really funny. And I don't know. I thought it was a very good counterpoint that he's like, I want to be a Targaryen. And they're like, no, you can't be a Targaryen. He's like, all right. And then he just gets on Silverwing drunk and starts killing people. It's like, the Valyrian way, you are a dragon lord. This is kind of what old Valyria used to do. So congratulations, you earned your stripes. I think we're going to finish this kind of on the Battle of Tumbleton. I kind of talked about my problems with Roddy already, and the Winter Wolves and the Riverlanders, that like they're a part of the plot, but they're not really doing a ton, that kind of stuff. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of Tumbleton. I think I got one. There we go. Tumbleton, Ulf, Roddy, and Ormond. I have no criticisms of Tumbleton as a battle. I thought it was the highlight of the season in terms of action. I thought it was better than the Gullet. The fighting was great. The tension was great. I didn't know what was going to happen, especially because they changed so much. Like Daemon's, for show fans, Daemon's not here. He's not in this battle. So they added stakes to it. All sorts of good stuff. I wish we just had more of it. I wish we had more Tumbletons. I wish we had Wish he had more of this like Fishfeed. Butcher's Ball was also good, but this was also pretty great. My same problem as always. How did they get here? How did the characters end up here? The Criston plot, whatever was going on with Roddy not really being a character, Oscar not really being a character. They made up for it by producing an excellent battle with dragons doing cool stuff. Daemon and John Roxton's fight was epic. There was that funny moment where the Winter Wolves were like, well, we survived. And then we're like, oh, man, we just wanted to die. That was a great moment of levity and a very serious, bloody scene. Yeah, this is a typical Game of Thrones, like late season Game of Thrones kind of thing, where the entire season was building up to kind of this whole battle, and it was really cool. And if you look at the IMDb ratings of the season, it kind of goes like this. It goes, oh, good, good, good. Oh no, oh no. Oh wait, okay, kind of good at the end. That's kind of how they tend to go. And I would say it's the same thing here. Before the season, I gave the show like, for the first 4 episodes, I think I said it was like a 9 out of 10. The back half was like a 7 out of 10 or something like that. I was far less impressed with where they were going after we got out of the finale of season 2. So yeah, that's sort of it for my review of the season. Again, if you're a first time here, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys hit the subscribe and like button so you can see more of the videos that are coming out in the future. Alice Rivers is the next one, but I'm going to keep doing more into the off season and into the Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I'm going to drag down the link to the Discord. Some of you have already joined, by the way. I've been kind of half looking at it while I've been talking, but I see some of you have taken the invite. Again, not only is it a good way to connect when I'm not live and doing this kind of stuff, but it's also really good for if you miss videos and you're like, oh my, I've gotten so many comments where people are like, why aren't I seeing your videos anymore? I watch every single one. You joining the Discord and like turning on notifications within it, every single video gets posted there, so you'll never miss anything ever again. A lot of fun people in there. I post like a bunch of stuff throughout the season, and I'm trying to I will admit I kind of let it go for a while, and I'm trying to fix that. So I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I hope to see you there. If you're watching this back, let me know in the comments, like, what did you think? Overall, I think the season was like an 8, maybe like a high 7 or something like that. First half was really good. Second half, I didn't think very much of. So there you go. I'm not a Game of Thrones HBO shill, because I just spent 4 hours saying mostly why I didn't like the rest of the show. Screeners or not, I didn't care for like a third of what they did in the second half of the season. So yep. So again, thank you guys very much. I'll see you next time I do one of these. I'll try to make maybe a more consistent time. This was kind of random today based on like timings and stuff like that. But I'm thinking I'm gonna go play Goose Goose Duck with Sanrixian and Visaria and a few other people. Also because I'm starting to lose my voice, because I haven't talked for 4 hours straight in quite a long time. So anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and I will see you in the future.